Meg, do you want to start this, or do you want me to do it? You know my preference, but
I would prefer that you start. Oh.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening. This is a meeting of the Board of Appeals. It's the meeting tonight, which is October 7th. And I have a quorum at this point. I don't have to tell everybody how to exit because you can't, we're all home. And we have one member not here, the chair.
You're in trouble if you don't know how to exit.
That's right. Sure, you're responsible to exit how you exit. All right, we have the continuing hearing in connection with 437 Ward Avenue, who has submitted to us an October 6th letter going through the history of some items and indicating different things. And I'm gonna, at this point, allow the applicant to, if the applicant, would you like to speak about what you submitted and just fill us in? I know we had already heard you the last time, so it would just be something new. And I think there were only a few items that were left open. There was some questions about compliance issues in this.
Right, so I'm here to help out Alice again. So Charlie Gottlieb reached out saying to submit a written statement by the applicant saying how the applicant is complying with each item under 342-42.1A.
Right.
And what we submitted to Charlie. I'm not sure if you have that with you.
That is the October 6th email, I believe. It's
I think it's the email to us. So I don't know that he would have that date.
Yeah, it's October 5th, I think.
The letter is dated October.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's October 5th. Thank you. You're correct.
Right.
Apologize.
So I think there were a few things that were touched upon at the last meeting. So, among other things, the applicant checked, and I guess she didn't understand what you were asking for last time, but they do possess, each massage therapist, her and her partner, they possess the New York State registration certificate. So they have a copy of that on the wall behind the front counter, along with the license. They submitted the fingerprinting to the police department, along with a register of the information that's required under that section. So they do have a sign. They always had a sign, but she confirmed that there's a sign on the second floor window at the store. Not sure what else was requested last time, but regardless, there is a response by the applicant in that October 5th letter saying how they're complying with each part in that section.
Okay. All right, we have that, and you'll go through everything on this. Any board members have any questions on this?
I reviewed the letter. It was very helpful that you did it in line comments with each of the standards. So that was a list of the standards that the village code has for massage service establishments. And it does look like you've complied with all of those standards. I did notice your sign in the window, so thank you very much for supplying that information.
Thank you.
Any members, are there anyone, any of the board members, or then I'll turn, how about the public? Do we have anyone here who wants to speak to this? Okay. All right. What time is it now? It's 7:16. All right. What's the sense of the board? Should we close, or you want to wait for Robin? What do you want to do?
I think we close.
Okay. Is there a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to close this application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Greta?
Yes.
Yes. Meg?
Yes.
Yes. And I'll vote yes. So the hearing is closed. What that means is that we've now heard your matter and it's closed, and we will decide the matter. It may not be at this meeting. It may be at the next meeting. But I just don't know. We may take it up tonight. But thank you very much. And we'll be,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you. But they can continue to operate.
okay.
But they can continue to operate.
I
even
believe
though-
because they've
Yeah.
already, because they've made the application and they've had a special permit, I believe that's been the understanding up until now.
Got it. Expires, I think, early November, but they can continue to operate if it doesn't come before then. Okay.
All right, is that the consensus of the board as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's customary.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
is. I was just asking if, thank you for your customary consensus. Thank you very much. and
We'll
good
wait
luck.
to hear. Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
The next, Meg, will you sing a song for us?
How about a joke? Does anybody?
Ah. So a guy goes into a bar.
If we take a look at the closed applications, because we have no other new business here. So if we look at the closed applications, perhaps we take a look at some, perhaps Smash Burger or some of these resolutions. Do we feel?
Okay.
Robin,
Which number is Smash Burger?
I'm looking at the agenda now.
Thank you.
That's my suggestion is Smash Burger is listed as number 5, I believe, and is case number 6 SP 2000. No, excuse me.
No.
I'm sorry, it's hard to read how this
Here, I
is.
can share my screen.
Oh, no, it's number 4. Number 4.
Number 4.
Isn't it? I believe
Case
that's,
7 SP 2015, yes.
okay, 1 second. Let me just pull out my. We have a draft resolution on that?
I don't believe we have a draft resolution. Is
No.
that,
No, I don't believe we do.
no, we just closed it at the last hearing and we didn't actually deliberate, I don't think, or
Okay. Wow.
discuss.
Would you like to deliberate on it? What are your
Uh,
thoughts?
This is a renewal. They're not changing any of their operations. We didn't hear anybody in the public or anybody raising any issues with how they are performing. I would like to ask council if it's possible, as we renew this special permit, to change the term that we are giving the special permit for to a carry-out restaurant or restaurant, carry-out, as is listed in our zoning code, because we don't have the term fast casual. So although the first special, if the board is inclined to approve this, of course, but as we were referring to it in our resolution tonight, is it possible to amend the term to carry out restaurant and not use the term fast casual restaurant? Because it's not in our code. We don't have standards for it. It doesn't require a special permit. So it doesn't make sense to have a resolution for a special permit.
Right.
I'm just glancing at the definitions. Would it be carryout or would it be fast food?
I discussed with on the record last week, we discussed their operations, how
Mhm.
they eat in and they deliver food to the customers who are sitting at a table, but that they thought that the majority of their operations are to take away. So it's not fast food. It fits the definition of carry-out restaurant, but that is what I determined after I reviewed the terms in the code.
Okay.
Because I don't think the food is pre-made or pre-packaged. It's made to order, I think. So that takes it, carry out is more applicable than the fast food definition.
For consumption off premises.
Because it has a counter where you can order and you have seats. And I do know that after you order, I have been there. I know that food will be delivered to your table. So that portion is a restaurant, but the majority of it is to take away. That's how it reads in the.
And the seating would be
Yes.
accessory to the main business and to the extent.
If the main business they were saying was to carry out, either people come in and pick it up, or with Uber Eats, there was a lot of people picking up. So I asked that specific question, which is the main operation, and he wasn't quite sure, but he felt that he estimated that the majority would be the takeaway and not the eat-in portion.
Gotcha. Yeah, so as long as the change is intended to reflect reality and consistency with code definitions, not reflect any sort of change in operations, I don't see an issue with including that designation there.
Perhaps we could note that in the resolution that the change in the term is no bearing on that there's any, the considerations of the board hasn't changed and the conditions haven't changed. We're just adding it to fit to the village code.
Yes, not intended to be reflective of a substantive difference.
Do you guys Greta or Dave, do you have an opinion on that change to carry out restaurant?
I agree with you, Meg. I think certainly we should use defined terms in the code. And I agree for all the reasons you stated that the appropriate characterization would be restaurant carry out.
Yeah, I don't know. When you write it in a resolution, can you write carry out restaurant or do you do restaurant, comma, carry out?
I think we'd say carry out restaurant. Anything else?
Robin?
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Robin?
Well, so would the rest of you on at 7 o'clock?
Yes,
Yes.
and we are live at this point.
I was going to eat when I saw the time on the thing.
I didn't realize. So the first thing I want, welcome everybody to the October 7th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I apologize. We had some confusion about what time the meeting was beginning, some of us at least on the board.
Well,
Yeah,
we started about 10 minutes ago.
did you?
Yes, we had asked, we were told it was noticed and I was involuntarily volunteered. But all
And
we
what did you
did was
accomplish?
we accomplished, we finished, actually, we were about to take a motion to close, but first we heard the application on 437 Ward, and they just referred to their submission. And no one had any questions on that from the board. I think they had submitted something. And that was the only matter that was heard and closed. And there was very little heard. There was no one from the public to speak, and there was, I think the board just basically had looked at their application and looked at their October 5, I believe it was, I don't have it in front of me now, but their submission.
Okay.
All right.
Then we moved now to the smash burger. We thought that that was something possibly we could start that.
Before we begin, let's take up something else. And what I want to take up is meetings and meeting times. So the first, let's get this resolved so we don't have it. Are we going to continue to Zoom meetings, or do we want to reconvene in person? It's up to us. What do we want to do?
For the November meeting we're talking about.
For the November, and obviously we could do this monthly or unless otherwise, what do we want to do as the practice for the next meeting? My 2 cents is that I prefer meetings in person. Will have to be, I'm going to be masked, but I like meetings in person, but I don't know if the rest of you want to do Zoom, we'll do Zoom. What do you want to do? That's really what I want to ask. And after we decide that, then we'll decide what time. So let's make the decision.
I'll
Anyone
pass.
else?
I'm not sure I have a major preference either way. Meg?
Meg or Greta?
I prefer Zoom as long as we're going, I would feel inclined to wear a mask. And I find it very difficult with a mask. When I get to the point where I feel comfortable and everybody's comfortable without wearing masks, I'm happy to do it in person. But until that time, I found it difficult to hear one another, difficult to express myself. So for that reason, I would like to stay on Zoom.
Okay, Greta?
I prefer in person, but that being said, I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable with
So
that.
then let's leave it as Zoom for now. Yes,
For
agreed?
November, can we revisit it then for December?
Absolutely.
Because my preference, for what it's worth, is I would say that I would concur with Greta that I think it's more efficient, or something works better with it. But I think that no one should be uncomfortable, and I think it's certainly a wise move to put it off for a month. It doesn't hurt.
No. So
Yeah.
we've agreed. It's going to be on Zoom next month.
Good.
Okay, next question. What time? Do we want to do it at 7 when it's Zoom, or do we want to do it at 7:30 when it's Zoom?
Since I don't think it makes any difference to when we end, I would say 8 o'clock would be a great time. But my vote would be 7:30, but I'll defer to anybody else. I don't care.
I like 7:30 as well.
Yeah.
I prefer,
Yes, that's fine.
Greta,
7:30 is fine with me.
I'm sorry,
7:30 is fine with me.
Greta, you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the November meeting will be 7:30 on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, now let's go to the closed applications. Now you wanted to take,
We already started discussing Smashburger, just to let you know. We
okay,
had some comments on it.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
We had jumped to one that seemed to be a little bit more standard in its approach we didn't have a lot of discussion about this application. The
I have
comments
no
that I had
comments.
made.
I had no comments, so on the Smashburger, I thought the renewal is fine, so I don't know what anyone.
The comment that I had made and that Rob was helping us with was simply, I am inclined to approve this renewal of the special permit as well. I was just asking if we could change to a code-defined term rather than the undefined term, which is a fast casual restaurant. We don't have our code and we don't have a need to give a special permit to a fast casual restaurant because there's no standards. So that's why I had asked the business operator or the applicant before us last time about his operations. And I was suggesting that we change it to carry out restaurant. And Rob had suggested that it's trying to change it to a term that's found in the village code.
Right. And as Meg pointed out, we can note in the resolution that the change is being made just for consistency with the code, not to reflect a substantive change in operations.
Okay, does a restaurant carryout need the same special permit? Does the same provision apply if we call it a restaurant carryout? I don't have a problem with changing the name, but do the same provisions apply? Or how does it worded in the section that deals with special permit?
Good question. We'll pull up the use chart. Well, I don't want to hold everyone up here as I look for this. Would it be acceptable to say we will make that change provided, Robin, that the special use permits requirements are the same for this use?
It's really, there's only one special permit requirement. The question is a special permit required? What are the provisions regarding special permit with respect to carryout? How is it worded? There's either no special permit required or it's the same, because we only have one in the village. I just don't have the section number in front of me. So does anyone have the section number in front of them?
Nor do I. I'm trying to pull it up.
Meg, do you?
No, I don't. I'm looking.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I thought you might. Okay, wait, special, yes. Okay, so assuming it, but, okay. The other thing I'd say is if we call this a restaurant carryout, then it's very difficult to distinguish a restaurant fast food from a restaurant carryout. And every fast food restaurant could be conceived of as a restaurant carryout. So I think we have to be careful of how we're doing this. If you look at,
I made the point, Rob had asked, would I consider fast food? And if I had, and I made the distinction that it was generally prepackaged containers or wrappers, I would say generally meaning the most everything is in prepackaged containers, and definitely Smashburger cooks to order. It's not prepackaged food. I think that that's a salient point for fast food. So I'm not sure that everything, I think that is a big distinction between the carryout and the fast food. Also, the restaurant carryout does also include a space where you can sit and eat at the table. That needs to be a component of it. I don't think that's a component in the restaurant fast food. So I think that there are marked differences between the two. And we all have gone many times, we've commented that these definitions could definitely use some clarity and some updating, but I don't think there's no doubt, Robin, at some point there'll be something that hits right in the middle, but I don't think it's a prevalent problem.
I'm happy to give it a defined term. And I honestly don't, and it's a good suggestion to make it a defined term. I'm not opposed to that. I just want to make sure that whatever term we give it doesn't then come back to bite us for something else. Because if you ask me, when I go to Burger King, at least the last time I went to Burger King, which was probably 15 years ago, I also made a custom order. I make a custom order wherever I'm going, and it was made to the way I wanted it. So
yeah,
I don't
think
see a
we have to look
difference.
at generally or proportionally what the sales are. That seems to be what these definitions are getting at, what defined terms. Not that there isn't a possibility that there's a possibility that somebody would come to your table and take your order and do it for order and send it, but if you're off, that doesn't, change you from being a fast food restaurant.
I have no problem. I just raised those two cautions of what does the special permit provision say, and will this come back to be a problem for us in the future?
Well, I'd like to read just one thing from the definition of fast food restaurant. And it says a facility where most or all of the sales to the public are stand-up services. So that's not Smash Burger.
Well, I don't know, Brenda, because if for the preponderance is takeout, that's standing up because you just stand up, you get it, and then you take it out, or you call it in and you're just standing up. And we're saying that the majority of sales are stand up.
Well, it says fast food is not a carry-out restaurant or delicatessen.
And I will just go back to the very beginning sentence that says generally served in prepackaged containers or wrappers. And prepackaged would mean that the food has already been made and it's prepackaged. You can't prepackage. I don't think they're talking about the raw ingredients being prepackaged. If you have to then cook it and then wrap it up, that's the distinction between something that is prepackaged.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know that any fast food restaurant, and I don't go to that many, so I can't answer. I have not been to that many. And I'm thinking of something like McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or one of those where you order what you want and then they wrap it up. So that's why I'm not so sure how that distinction applies. But I'm okay with leaving this with if we can, if we're okay with, as long as the special permit provision applies.
Do they have a drive-in window?
No.
Okay.
It's on the main street. It's not drive-in. It's just,
And their general commercial district?
yeah.
Yes.
So principal permitted uses include restaurants, which is subject to 342-45, and the use is subject to the approval procedures set forth in Article 10, which are the special use permit.
Well, 342-45 are the list.
Sorry?
If we call it a fast food restaurant, carryout restaurant, do we have to make that determination about the 200 linear feet? Is there something else? Yes, because right next door is the that ice cream, that frozen yogurt place. So it is closer than 200 feet. If we're going to call it a carryout or fast food, then we have to deal with the 200 feet.
I thought that the proximity only was about fast food, not about carryout.
No fast food restaurant, carryout restaurant, or delicatessen shall be permitted on Mamaroneck Avenue closer than 200 linear feet to another existing fast food restaurant, carryout restaurant, or delicatessen on the same side of the avenue.
Yes. And they this is a renewal on their last special permit. Did we give them the the proximity. We didn't discuss it
didn't-
because they didn't have at the time, they didn't have the other businesses there.
Because we didn't call it a fast food or carryout last time, therefore it didn't need the 200 feet distance.
Well,
And-
so last time we really didn't.
We
do
fudged it.
Yeah, we fudged it. I don't think the applicant should suffer because we didn't deal with the issue.
No, I don't think so either, but if we're gonna do something now to make it more in line with the code, then we have to carry that through and do everything else more in line with the code is all I'm saying.
Okay.
So if you want to call it fast food, if you want to call it carry out, then we need to make that determination. Which would be a variance is the problem. You need a variance for that because it's not a special permit.
Well, they're existing, so it's a special, and it is a special.
Yeah,
permit.
yeah, I don't see how you could not renew because a new a business came in and built next to you after you were already there for 3 years, that you're gonna now say, I'm not gonna renew it because you're too close to somebody else. That just doesn't, you're the pre-existing thing.
But
And
they
all
weren't
restaurants-
pre-existing, weren't they built at the same time as the ice cream place next door? I don't know which opened first.
I believe the Smash Burger opened first. I'm absolutely certain. I know it didn't open second. It was there for a while. I think it was open before that the frozen yogurt place opened.
Then the first.
What we can do is mock up a resolution, think through what the potential unintended consequences might be, determine if any variance relief, if any, might be necessary, and present that to the board, and you can determine if you want to make a change or not.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, Rob, one of the options is to simply renew it as is, right?
I'm okay with renewing it as is,
I don't
And-
know.
the problem that Meg points out, which is correct, is something we need to deal with, but really the trustees need to deal with it. So,
Hold my breath.
Why we are giving a special permit to something that's not listed needs a special permit? Sounds like if you're gonna have a business, just go for it. If it's not something that's listed in the code, why would we be giving a special permit to something that doesn't say in the code you need a special permit for that?
Yeah, I don't like to fudge. I like to be precise.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I certainly think if the yogurt store came second, then Smash Burger doesn't really need a variance because it's the yogurt store that came second.
I think that's right, but I don't know if the yogurt store came second. I don't think any of us is certain, even if some of us think that might be true.
Yes, but we could find out. And so we could, the next month.
I think but the hearing was closed, so that information is not in the record. I think the appropriate thing is, Rob, to figure out and take up your suggestion and figure out what the implications are and figure out a solution.
Right, if it's going to be very complicated or there's a problematic, then maybe we have the fallback as is, right? Just an extension.
But at the end of the
We
day,
memorialize the erroneous aspect of it.
at the end of the day, all restaurants are food service establishments and have to comply with Article 10 special permits. So,
And hopefully by next meeting, we can find out whether or not it was existing prior to the other ice cream store opening up, whether it came first or not.
Okay. So Rob, you'll draft something. You'll think about all the implications and we'll go from there.
sounds good.
Okay. Next item is 504, the
You want to go
Parkway.
back to the top of the list?
Oh, right, you didn't do 1040. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Remember, you took it out of order. Okay, let's do chopped. I have a lot of comments on the draft application. I mean, the draft resolution, a lot of comments. So,
Before we get into the resolution itself, could we have a sense of where we are? Because I was surprised to get that resolution before we had been able to deliberate or discuss.
As was I, which is one of the reasons I had so many
Right, so
comments.
if we could take the resolution away and we could have a discussion of the board first. Thank you very much. Thanks. I would like to know, I have raised the point during the public hearing last time that I am holding that this is a carryout restaurant and not a restaurant. As a carryout restaurant, it is it is not permitted to have the car service. And so that would definitely change some aspects of the resolution that we should end up with. So I think first, maybe could we tackle that decision as to whether this is a restaurant as it is claiming to be, as the applicant is naming itself, or is it a carry-out restaurant? Because that has a lot of implication as to where we're going to go with the resolution.
I think they made a case for the fact that this will not be like other Chopped, and they will have more in-restaurant, in-house, in-restaurant, with inside eating than most Chopped do, and therefore, based on that, I am perfectly fine with considering it a restaurant. If we are considering, if we wanted to call it a fast food or fast casual or carry out, whatever it is you're suggesting, we are saying to them, we don't believe you, even though we don't have any evidences to not, we're just discussing it with them. And a carry-out restaurant is, since we just made the distinction of why Smash Burger was a carry-out, it's fairly different from Smash. I mean, I don't know, maybe a business enterprise primarily engaged in the retail sale of food or beverages. All food or beverages are sold at retail, so it's a little bit strange, which may include grocery items. They don't have grocery items for consumption off the premises, and they are saying that this Chopped will be operated in a way in which the food is going to be primarily sold for consumption on the premises, or though there will also be consumption off the premises. So I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
that's
I'm
perfectly happy with considering it a restaurant based on the way they say they want it to operate. They hope that this will operate.
Well, as I said, I'm sorry, I'll just finish up Greta really quick. And the last public hearing that we had when we were, I made the point in the last public hearing that in the hearing before, we specifically asked, what were the percentage of operations were they expecting? Were they anticipating? How much would be eat in? They said about a third. So that's from the applicant. Yes, I guess it's different from Chopped. That's sort of a very vague analogy. We don't even know what other Chopps do, but they said 2/3 would be takeaway, 1/3 would be eat in. Right there, we have, if we're going to believe what the applicant has presented to us, that is the proof that is majorly a takeout restaurant and not eat-in service. Eat it, order there and eat in. Sorry, Greta, I jumped on your comment.
Yeah, no, I agree with Meg. Primarily it is a takeout. They admitted that. You have to judge takeout by revenue, their revenue, and their revenue is coming from takeout. So and in terms of what they hope the restaurant will be in terms of being more of a sit-in, that's totally speculative. They provided no evidence to suggest that really that was going to be the case. And even if they got their best projections as a sit-in restaurant, it's still 1/3 sit-in. So I really don't see how they've met the definition of a restaurant.
Dave, do you have any thoughts?
An unrelated one, less complicated one. There's a reference when I read this, which wasn't, this was earlier, to they're not being able to utilize the counter, the outside opening. You know what I'm referring to? Let me find it.
The drive up, the car service window.
Right. I would just like somewhere in there indicating that they have not, and that they have not asked for a variance from that. Because they never did. And I had once discussed this with Charlie because the issue would come up, is it an area or a use variance? And based on the code, it's based upon state law, it's a dimensional issue, a physical issue, not a use issue. But I don't really care, but they never, I mean, it didn't come up because I don't think they ever asked for one.
What do they need a variance for?
Well, if they wanted to,
Plans, they changed their
Besides the
plans.
yards, of course, I'm not talking about the yards, but you're talking about something else.
yes, I believe that in here, and I can't put my finger on it this minute, they had indicated there was a big discussion, can they use the outside service? Can they open that? There's an opening there, right?
They're
Like
gonna
I
what-
think in their new plan, they were not asking to be able to business transactions through that window.
That's correct. I just don't want it to be, there's an implication that they cannot do that. We have no rights to that. We have a right. I believe it's an area variance issue, but they've not asked for it.
Right.
And I just wanted that indicated that they hadn't asked for it because
I'm not sure, David, they didn't ask for it. They said they're not going to use the window. They're just going to use where that is as a sort of a door. And they're going to go through their car service from that area. I'm not sure why we need to say they didn't ask for something they didn't ask for. They didn't ask for lots of things.
well, didn't we discuss, I guess if you could, maybe, let me just look at this, the proposed resolution, but I thought there was a place that said they couldn't use it as a condition. I had put it in my notes on the earlier one, but I don't seem to have it.
Condition number 1, the applicant shall not operate drive-through service or counter drive-through service on the premises.
But they didn't ask for drive-through.
Right,
So-
okay. The applicant shall not. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I would have put down as no application for variance was granted. I think that they were under the impression that they had to get a use variance.
No, they didn't apply for, but they didn't.
No, I
They
know, but they
applied-
talked, when they talked about it. I understand what you're saying. All right, I mean, I can live with it this way.
Perhaps if we could go back to the point of the distinction, are we going to write a resolution for if we are so inclined to approve it or deny? Are we writing it as a restaurant or as a carryout restaurant? Because that directly will result in whether or not we're discussing car service at all or not. So that's why I thought before we get too far down the road, if we
Yeah.
could make that distinction. So Dave, how do you come out on the question of whether it's carryout restaurant or a regular traditional sit-down restaurant? Or which term it meets?
I gotta think about that one. I've never quite, this is, but I just gonna say, from my standpoint, this is a moving target application. I've never quite, it's sort of like what, Meg, you're saying it should be, it does not fit, it's a takeout, is that right?
If there's a carryout, because they describe their operations as being 2/3 takeaway, they anticipate 2/3 will be takeaway and 1/3 will be that someone's going to come up, order there, and then sit at the table and someone will deliver their meal to them. That will be 1/3 of their business, and 2/3 of their business will be some form of people ordering to just take away and eat,
Right.
consume off the premises.
Then it sounds to me like it's probably more of a takeaway restaurant, takeout, right?
I think it's carryout is the term.
Carryout. I mean, I think that's, you're right. That's what they say.
I think they said both. I think prior to the last meeting, they had been less specific about how much they thought was going to be. I got the impression that more was going to be sit down than they did say at the last meeting. I am very concerned about, leaving aside, there were lots of problems with this application, but I'm sort of concerned about the fact that we proceeded down a certain path with their application, didn't suggest to them at any point during their application that maybe this wasn't a restaurant, that this was a carryout restaurant, and therefore we wouldn't give them the car service. And we can decide that it's not a carryout, and I don't know that I disagree that I think it's another one of these, every one of these restaurants is a little different, but the way that these things happen, which is that we have a hearing and then we discuss it, and in the discussion we raise something that was not at all pointed out, discussed, or raised do we really during the,
I remember distinctly you
it just seems to me a
I-
little bit problematic.
I distinctly remember, I definitely raised it in the last public hearing because you took me to task that I was wrong. So I kind of a little sensitive about that. I absolutely do remember that I did review that. And I believe that Greta was actually, Greta, you'll have to speak for yourself, but was also raising the point that she was asking the proportionality and asking for the operation. So I disagree. And that's why I purposely raised it and was trying to have a discussion with them about these two terms. So I, for sure, was discussing that in the public hearing and gave them the chance. We're thinking about this resolution as taking like a year. This particular last design that they gave us had before us maybe 3 times. So we can't. Yes, we were going down a different path. They were not calling themselves a restaurant originally. Then they were a restaurant, but they were going to have a window. And we closed one application and then they came back. So it isn't as though we've had a lot of discussion and never talked about the difference. It's actually out of the last 3. I think that Greta raised some points, and then definitely the last hearing that we had, I definitely was I said that I was asking them why they're not a carryout and that I felt that they were a carryout.
Yeah, I think at least 2 or 3 months ago, I asked questions about the anticipated proportionality of takeout versus sit-in. And then I followed it up. And then the last session, Meg more explicitly said, and they kept repeating it, at no point in my recollection did they ever indicate that they were even at a 50% mark. It was always going to be a majority was always going to be takeout. But it was then at the last session that Meg was quite explicit in saying, yeah, you've been saying this all along, you don't meet the definition of a restaurant. So I think they certainly had notice that these were questions being asked, we were concerned, and then Meg was explicit about why it was important.
There's no question that at the last meeting, Meg asked the question and they were very clear that a third was.
But before that last meeting, it was.
Before that last meeting, I was, as I said, I was under the impression, and I was very surprised when they said only a third, because I'd gotten the impression all along that they were trying to change this from, primarily takeout to primarily sit in, and that's how they were setting this up. So
perhaps one option would be to approve it as a restaurant, but make clear that it's approved on the condition that it meets the definition of a restaurant and a restaurant only, and that its primary purpose is not carry out, so that you're in a sense conditioning it to be a restaurant as opposed to a carry out restaurant.
the problem, well, I think that's a good idea, Rob, but here's the problem. We are still in the pandemic, and many restaurants are still having primarily takeout. I mean, you go to a lot of restaurants and they're not going to be full inside. A certain percentage of the service is going to be takeout as a practical matter. And so I think it would be very hard to measure it at some point. Otherwise I think it's a good idea. And Meg may be right that this is a carry-out restaurant based on what they said at the last meeting.
We could approve it as a carry-out, and then if they can prove to us at some point that we're wrong, that their business is primarily a sit-in, then they can come back and say,
and amend it.
Proof.
Or if it evolves, if it's after the pandemic, it evolves.
That's a good idea, Greta. I think that's a good suggestion. And the basis for that decision would be that they said to us 1/3 is going to be eat in and 2/3 are going to be take out in some form.
Right. So I don't know.
So we're going to say it's a carry out, but they can come back at some point when they have evidence.
I think the resolution should explain that while they have applied for a restaurant with car service based on the information provided at the hearings, they only anticipate 1/3 of the food being so, or the food, that only 1/3 will be done inside the restaurant at a table or counter, which makes the principal use not restaurant use, but carry out use, and therefore based on that, they can't have the car
That
service.
1/3 will be served to them at a table. It's not just you got a paper bag and then you went over and sat down, as opposed to be, it has to wait.
Seated at a table, served by a waiter or waitress and consumed on the premises.
That has to be
Blank
beyond
of the code.
50%.
Yeah,
Okay.
Are you going to make it subject to their ability to come in and change that if it changes?
I don't think we need to say that. I think if we lay it out, the reason we're doing it this way, and they're probably listening to us right now, I don't think we need to say they can always come in and change it if in fact in a year or 2 years they discover that in fact they're getting a lot of people in, they can come in and tell us that. I don't think we need to make because we're not making it conditional. It's not like we're saying you automatically get it, are we? I think we're saying they have to come back to us.
Right.
If they have to come back to us, I don't even think we need to say in the resolution that they do.
Well, the only thing is if you're going to give them permission to come back, otherwise somebody could say, well, why are you coming back? You've already got this, and we're not going to consider it. I don't know. It's up to you.
So then we
can
can
always
say in the
consider an
resolution,
amendment.
after we explain what the problem is, we can say, because of the evidence they presented, and if they have at any time, any evidence that they are in fact a restaurant with most of the food and beverages being consumed at a table and served by a waiter or waitress, then they would be entitled to the car service, or they would be entitled to ask for the car service.
So perhaps as with the last application, we'll do a draft resolution, circulate it, can talk about it. No decision will be made tonight. Once we agree on the resolution, you can vote on the resolution.
Are you okay on timing on this?
The public hearing was closed on, was it closed? Hold on, I have my calendar.
I know that there was a plea from the applicant that we do this.
Yeah.
We don't delay, that we heard quite a bit about, that they didn't want to delay.
The public hearing was closed, I believe, at the last meeting, so timing is not an issue. But I know that they were very concerned because they wanted to open. So if we vote, I think we can take a, I rather than take a vote on an actual resolution that we don't have, I would rather take a straw poll now on what it is, so the applicant knows how we're almost certainly going to vote, and then we actually vote on it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I just want to stress that the actual decision would not be tonight.
Correct.
Yeah.
But at least he would know how we were leaning. So I would say that, can we have a vote on, I'm going to propose, again, this is not a vote with a second, but I'm going to propose that we vote on to approve it as a restaurant carryout based on the evidence they've given us, and recognizing that if more of the restaurant is in fact a table, waitress, waiter service, they can come and get their car service, and that we're approving the variances they've requested.
Yeah, so we're approving, so that we would approve a special permit as a carryout restaurant and not approve the car service. Let's make that clear.
Right.
And then
But we are
if they
approving the
want to evolve,
variances.
they evolve
But
and
we're
want to
also
come back.
approving the variances, because they
Right.
need the
To approve the
variance.
variance. I had raised something, I'll just raise it. I had raised something in an earlier application, an earlier version of this application, not lately. So let me just share with you my concern, and perhaps there's nothing to be done. But originally we were given a site plan that showed something that they were going to utilize, the freestanding sign that's in the front of the lot that was left over from the bank. I did raise that I don't think that that's zoning compliant, and that in the materials that they had provided, there was definitely a sign permit, but no variance had been approved for this. And now when this new one, we're not getting a complete sign. We don't see the sign. They're just not giving us views, elevations, and putting the sign in there. I don't know whether they intend to utilize that sign. But if they want to utilize that sign, I can quote the code here, why I believe that they would need a variance in order to be able to.
They're not here for a sign variance. We're not approving any sign here.
Yeah, there's no
We are
sign there.
approving the site plan for the restaurant. So I'm not sure why we need to say anything about the sign. They will have to get the sign approved by the building inspector, and either he will find it compliant or he will find it non-compliant.
But is it on the site plan? Is it on the site plan?
It was on the original site plan.
But it's not on the current site plan, is it? And we're proving it based on the current site.
It not is or not. They're just not adding that part in any of the elevations that I got. So I will just cite 286-11B freestanding signs as those are the regulations as to why someone is permitted a freestanding sign if the building department is.
I don't think it's relevant, and I don't think we should discuss it. It's not on the site. The site plans that we have most recently been given, we're not approving it, and will be up when and if they do want to use it. It'll be up to the village and building inspector to determine whether they can use the freestanding sign or not.
I had originally brought it up when it truly was in front of us, and we were looking at. They gave us all the sign information that was all in the packet that we had.
Okay. Okay, so again, going back to what I was suggesting, which is a straw poll to approve it as a fast casual based on the evidence that they provide. I'm sorry, a restaurant carryout, based on the evidence they provided and the definitions, and that's how we would approve it, and therefore they couldn't have car service.
I think Rob's, is restaurant comma carryout? And
Yeah,
Rob,
that's what is in the code.
yeah, I mean.
I think that's just for
Let's call it
alphabetical
carry-out
consistency.
restaurant.
I think we can,
that's what's
I think we can
is
say
it-
carry out restaurant.
Okay, what is everyone, Meg?
Yeah.
David, you're saying yes?
I would approve a special permit for it as a carry-out restaurant. Deny the car service as a result because it's not permitted as a carry-out restaurant. And yes, the language that if they come back and they evolve their services, then it becomes more than 50% of their business is as a restaurant, they could come back and ask to review for the car service.
Well, and we're approving the variances, which is also, you're always
We are also
forgetting the variances.
Approving
But
the
they
area
needed
variance.
3 variances, so we're approving the
Yes,
variances.
I would vote in favor of that. Yes.
Okay, Greta
Yeah.
and David.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a straw poll so the applicant can see pretty much how we are intending to vote on the application. And Rob, if you would draft a
We'll do
okay,
so.
next application. So we've done, the next one would be 504 The Parkway.
So I have to recuse Robin.
You have to
Is that-
be-
that's-
Reminding.
I thought the next,
I always remember. Thank you.
Robin, I thought the next one is SP 2020-308 Mamaroneck Avenue. Am I wrong?
You are wrong.
Oh, I'm looking
Oh,
at,
wait a minute, sorry. I have notes on my app. I have notes on my agenda. And they have this taken because I got confused by how you started it. So you are right and I am wrong. It is, the next one is 11 SP 2020-308 Mamaroneck Avenue,
Which is,
Barkila.
Oh.
And what does everyone think?
am I missing? Do we have that resolution on that one?
No.
No, this was the one, if you recall, there was some case law discussion relative to whether or not it was legitimate to regulate hours of operation.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think the consensus was that
It is.
the board cannot regulate hours of operation just for the sake of regulating hours of operation as a business, but it can to the extent that there are potential land use implications and impacts, provided there's evidence demonstrating the fact that there could be an impact based on the hours of operation.
I have, to me, we talked about the hours because that's what they wanted to do. And they wanted to go, the applicant seeks an amendment to extend the hours 10:30 a.m. to 10:30, Monday through Thursday to 10 o'clock p.m., Friday and to 11, at Friday and Saturday to 11:30. I thought he wanted to go much later than that.
I think those are his current hours. And if you look at what I'm reading here on the agenda.
Oh, right, 2 a.m. I
Right.
think 2 a.m. we discussed is much later than any other restaurant is allowed on Mamaroneck Avenue. And I am not in favor of it. And I would make the hours based on the fact that there are residents, even if there's no resident immediately above this, there are nearby residents, and I would not. And I think that the impact on Mamaroneck Avenue on the residents is potentially not.
Do we have some
Means-
information as to the relative location of those residents?
Yeah, they're throughout the village.
The residents above everything on Mamaroneck Avenue.
Yeah, and the whole village, it would change the character of the neighborhood if you had because if they can be till 2 a.m., everybody can be. And all the residents will be deeply impacted by that.
So I think these hours are too late. I think we can make them later and make them more consistent with what other restaurants are on Mamaroneck Avenue, but 2 a.m. is much later than other restaurants are.
I would suggest 1 a.m. for the weekend hours for sure.
What was it up? What's it been up to now?
11:30 p.m.
What other restaurants in the area are have hours up to 1 a.m.? Is that consistent with the surrounding food establishments?
That's what I was trying to remember. I don't remember what others have. Sal's, which is the closest, is open, I think, till midnight when they're in their normal course, not till later, but that's not a regular restaurant. 'cause that's
Recently,
mostly
what about
takeout.
the Italian restaurant across the street, way up on the avenue towards the Boston Post Road? We did a lot with the hours on that one. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name.
Do you remember what they are? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember, and I don't. Let me see if I can find any in my notes.
Probably a good idea. You know what? We should probably get a database where you have an aerial and you know the times and everything, because you're right.
That's a really good, yeah, that would be a really good.
I say if something is already operating until 12 and this business owner has come to us and said it needs to stay open in terms of viability of his business, the success of his business, I don't think that 1 o'clock is that much later. It's going to really tremendously change the character of the avenue if this one goes till 1 a.m.
On both.
He's
nights?
operating
But
till
I would,
11:30
excuse
now.
me, but I would add a condition that the doors and windows be closed at, say, 11:30, or we pick a time. And I know that the applicant was fine with that, so that the noise is basically confined to inside. And so it's not impacting.
Problem is, if you go till 1 o'clock, you're going to be effectively doing 1:30 by the time they close up.
But remember, what we're saying is there's two. The question is, when we decide those hours, what is it we're saying that hours mean? Is that the hours that we're saying that all the I think what we're saying is customers have to be out of the restaurant at that time. And if that's what we're saying, then I think 1 o'clock might be okay. But I noticed that Station Plaza, just as only is open till 11:30. I'm just looking at resolutions that I found.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily find every resolution, but here's some resolutions I have on my computer, which is all I'm doing is I'm looking to see what I can find. And
If you're looking,
so I found Station Plaza, and that is till 11:30. So I'm looking at I'm just looking at to see if I see anything else. So I don't have everything on my computer.
I was going to say, I feel very uncomfortable, this owner, that he can't have people in his space who can be there, who can't be there. I can see that we can say, we don't want you to encourage more business transactions, or that you have business transactions. The fact that that you're going to chase out your customers is a terrible thing to do to as this owner running a restaurant. I feel very uncomfortable. I don't think we're supposed to be telling, it has to have an environmental impact.
No, it doesn't.
I feel like that's an overreach to tell someone that you'll get fined or you will be in violation if you didn't kick your customers out. I have a real problem with that.
Well, that's,
Monona Corolla, I have a resolution, but I'm not
Okay.
sure if it's a draft or the adopted resolution. In fact, it has to be a draft, but it says 11 p.m. as well.
Yeah.
So I think based on looking at those, and again, I know that Station Plaza is correct. I don't know what Nona Corolla is, but I think that 1 a.m. is, no, I would not be happy with allowing people with doing anything other. If we're going to say 1 a.m., it has to be, everybody has to be out of the restaurant. And they can easily make sure that people are out of the restaurant by, for example, deciding that they're not going to continue. They're going to close their kitchen at 11:30 or 12. We're not telling them what time. And based on the fact that they close their kitchen and their bar at 11:30 or 12, people aren't going to sit around for 2 hours. People will eventually leave. So we either have to tell them what time they have to close their kitchen, which doesn't guarantee, or we have to tell them what time customers have to be out. But we do need to tell them one of those things.
I would suggest consideration of, because if you make it 1 o'clock and they don't close on time, by the time anybody really knows, it's 1:15, 1:30. So I would rather say 12:30 and they have to close by 1. That way you've got momentum in that. If they're starting to serve at 1:45, people are going to be able to call someone, I guess. But I'd say if you want them to close at 1, then tell them 12:30 and they have to close at 1.
Well, then what happens at 12:30, David? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I guess the kitchen you stop serving.
No, if we're going to tell them 1 o'clock, kitchen has to stop at midnight.
Oh, well,
As
I
a
didn't know.
practical matter, the kitchen has to stop at midnight because people,
All right,
if I go in
I
at
agree with
1:45,
Well, yeah.
Aren't we really interfering with the?
Yes.
I'm sorry, if I could just finish, operations of the business. If you say, we don't want people in the space, we want them all to have gone home for the environmental impact by a certain time, don't we leave it up to the applicant as to when he stops, to tell the applicant that when he has to stop selling, kitchen closes? I would think it's in his interest, if he wants to comply and everybody's supposed to leave by 1, he should figure it out, or she should figure it out, whoever the applicant is. But for us, it seems intrusive, or I didn't think that was beyond our powers to do, is to actually say this is when, unless it's the village has decided it comprehensively for all, for us to tell this group, you have to stop your kitchen at this hour or the bar at this hour. I don't understand the environmental impact that we would justify your kitchen can't go beyond 12. We're thinking it means so that you'll get out by 1, but don't.
It's appropriate to
I'm not
regulate
willing-
the use of land to avoid a particular impact.
Right.
Yeah, we're not deciding that there's an environmental impact per se. What we're saying is there is an impact on the community. I would not like the restaurant to be told any later than 12:30. I think 12:30 is late enough, given what I've discovered from other nearby restaurants, because based on what I'm discovering, that means every other restaurant is going to come back and ask to be there till
Absolutely.
12:30. And there's a lot of restaurants on Mamaroneck Avenue. So,
I'm not so sure on that definitely we could have more late closing restaurants. I understand that. But all of the other ones we've never had to reduce their hours. That's just what they came in. That's just what they wanted. They wanted 11 o'clock. They were
no,
We've got Molly Spillane's and others.
We've reduced
got-
lots of hours.
My time on the board, I know Nona Corolla, they didn't ask for later, and then we curbed the hours. So that's I'm sorry. So I should qualify that as the years that I've been on the board. I can't remember on Mamaroneck Avenue that somebody asked for a late time, and then we told them they couldn't stay open as late as they wanted.
Yeah, we've had
The interior of their operations. I know
there's been many applications that we told they had to close earlier on Mamaroneck Avenue.
I would
And
like
if you're
to.
going to make a Mamaroneck Avenue so people are up until 1, the whole street, you've effectively affected all the residents.
Yeah.
That's a big step. I mean, it's not like, and it's a huge jump because what are they up to now? They're 11 now?
But you told me Sal's is open till 12, so we have a
Well,
business.
what's this open till now?
11 or 11:30.
Right. So I would be comfortable with 12:30, but, and then,
I'm okay with
but the
12:30.
doors closed by 1. Because I think the realistic part is you have to stage it because they're human beings and they're out there because everybody, they could stay open late at night. I think this way they know that, I'm sorry, we're closed, but you can stay for another half an hour. That's a lot more friendly than it is saying, okay, no food and you're out. And I hear what you say, Robin, about closing the kitchen at 12, but I don't know. That's sort of mini
okay with-
managing.
I would say that they have to be closed at 12:30. That customers, what we've said, the way we've worded it, and here's the language from Nona Corolla. I'll read you the language. That the windows and doors must be closed no later than 10 p.m. on Sundays through Thursdays. Oh, wait, that's not it. That the restaurant's hours of operation for customer service shall be no later than 10 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and no later than 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. That is the hours for Nona Corolla. And that's the language, that the restaurant's hours of operation for customer service. That's the language that we've used. So I think, given that that is the language you use, and I think that's the same language we have on, and that was granted, Meg, while you were on the board. And the reason Nona Corolla didn't come for longer hours is because we had significantly reduced the, Molly Spillane came in with one time, we reduced it, then we reduced it a second time because of the noise and the impact on the avenue. So Nona Corolla, so the hours of operation for customer service. So I think that's the language we should use, and I would not be willing to do it past 11:30. And I'm just letting you know that I am on Friday and Saturday, not on Sunday through Thursday.
So what would you, can you help me?
I'm sorry, 11:30 for which, Greg?
I said 12 hours of operation for customer service shall be no later than whatever time they want to begin through 12:30 on Friday and Saturday nights. That's
then
the latest I would be.
About the other night, and what about the other nights?
Well, again, based on others, I think that I think 11 o'clock is as late. Everything else on weekdays, we've made 10 o'clock. I don't see why we should not make it 10 o'clock here. I really have a problem with opening the restaurants later. We have a lot of residents on Mamaroneck Avenue. And again, other restaurants on Mamaroneck Avenue have been limited, much more limited.
And one has to assume that that will change.
Excuse me, I'm here. I'm just going off video for just a moment. I'm here. I just have to make an adjustment.
All right. So anyway, that's my thoughts. 12:30 are okay on Friday and Saturday. Recognize for hours of service for
When
hours
do
of
they have to
operation
close?
for customer service.
And when do people have to leave by?
Well, it says customer service. It means they can't have customer service after. So that means they can't, whatever that means. I don't know what it means, David, if you want to know the truth. I would say that they can't serve anybody anything after 12:30, if that's what we're saying, because that's when hours of operation for customer service.
Right, and the
they can't
doors
get
have to be
people
closed,
out.
and there has to be no customers in the premises after 1, let's say.
I'm okay with that.
So 12:30 is customer service and 1 o'clock, because, you know, people have been drinking, they'll hang out.
That's
Greta, what
okay
do you
with
think?
me.
And I agree with you both.
But weekends, Friday and
Yeah,
Saturday.
I think 12:30 service, 1 o'clock close.
Yeah.
Is reasonable. It's you don't want to go, once we do it for one, we're gonna have to do it for everybody else. And that's gonna be an environmental impact that can be detrimental. So
I don't think of it as an environmental impact. I think of it as a community impact. It's a real problem.
Well, but the quality of life is an environmental impact. And
Yeah. And I think that, so now, assuming we go with that, what do we want to do for weekdays? I think that the weekday hours at 10 o'clock is what we should leave it at.
do
You want to make it a little later, we could, but again, we didn't for anyone else. So I'm not sure why, again, we're treating this one so different.
what do they want that for? What do
every
they
other
want?
Restaurant.
What do
Every
they-
other restaurant would like to be later.
Yeah, of course. What do they want, though? What is their request for during the week?
2 o'clock every day.
Oh, all right.
Well,
Me too.
Sunday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m.
We can make them earlier in the morning, give them 2 extra hours. Sorry.
Let's not.
I would say, I think 10:30 or something if you want to. What do you have now? 10 o'clock of the others?
Yeah, and this is what they have now, 10 o'clock. If you want to make it 10:30, I'm okay with that. I would not be willing to make it later.
okay, well, I'm happy. I'd be willing to do 10:30 and then I guess
11.
customers leave by 11, yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
12,
that
yeah.
means everyone else is going to be out.
Yes, right.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
All right. So I think there are 3 of us who want to do that. So I'm not sure how Meg feels, but based on that, I think, Rob, if you would draft a resolution.
Yes.
You think we need one drafted for this, Rob? Yeah. Okay.
Is that the only change? Are we putting any conditions? Is that the only change?
I think we have the standard conditions we have for all
Yeah.
special permits.
And I think we should discuss in the resolution the particular reasons why hours are justified in this instance.
I think it's on Mamaroneck Avenue. Mamaroneck Avenue has a lot of residential use. The noise has been a problem. Noise late has been a problem for other restaurants, and we have limited the hours, and we are extending at their request. We are giving them slightly longer hours, but we are concerned about the impact on the quality of there's a lot of residents, and we're concerned about the impact of the noise on residential use.
The quality of
on
life.
Mamaroneck.
I think we probably have more residential units on Mamaroneck Avenue than we have commercial units.
Probably do.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, without question we do.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sorry, my battery had died, so I was out for just a moment or so until I got my computer charged up. So I know you talked about when the kitchen has to close and the hours of when the customers have to leave. Did we discuss closing the doors and windows at some point, like on the weekend?
Sure, that's okay. I think
Doors
that's,
and
What is the consensus of the board for how late the Friday and Saturday will go?
well, we said 12:30 for service, and then the closing by 1. So
Everybody
So
has to be
I
out.
would say I'm fine with like 11:30, the doors and windows have to be closed, because to me that, like
That's
they keep
again-
operating and be all lit up and the customers are coming in, but doors and windows are closed. So to help them.
That again is later than any other
yeah,
restaurant.
I would say earlier than that, 11. Because
11 o'clock
live
then?
there. 11 o'clock, I think, for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Or you could just go 1 hour before the same timing, so you could cover it. Yeah. What about during the week? That's not an
I
issue.
don't know that we have any prescription for any other businesses during the week that it's a sort of a reasonable.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Does Sal's have to close their window? I mean, everything.
Sal's isn't the same thing. It's a very different. Well, I used it as an example, but it's not a good
I
example.
just asked a question. Are there other businesses that are operating until 11 or so during the week and have their windows open? I think there's a lot of them have. I know that there is the Asian restaurant that has the doors and windows that are wide open, very nice, that you go in and out. Is there any, do they close at a certain time?
Reading the Nona Corolla one, which again is the only one I have, the windows and doors must be closed no later than 10 p.m. on Sundays through Thursdays, and no later than 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay, so we could make the windows and doors close at 10 then to be consistent with that one.
10 on weekdays, 11 on Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the only one. It's not that it's the only one there is, but it just happens to be the one that I had.
I was referring to the Italian restaurant that was up the street on the other side. That was Nona Corolla that I was referring to.
Okay, is that good? Are we good? And it will have the standard, the rest of the special permit requirements are our standard special permit requirements that we find for.
Right. So this is not a straight renewal. This was an extension of ours. So this is not renewing it. This is
Just amending it.
amending the current special permit.
Right, so the special permit remains in full force and effect, except that the hours are changed to reflect the new hours.
Right.
Plus the conditions in terms of closing the doors
Right.
and the hours.
Right. Okay, we good? Okay, moving on to case number 7 SP 2015. Oh, no, we did that one. So case number 6 SP 2013, 504 The Parkway. Now
Can
we
we do
have a draft.
539 Jefferson Avenue?
Did I miss another one?
I
Oh,
think
yeah, I
it's
did.
cool.
I
I
keep
guess
wanting
the way my
to
agenda is printed out,
Trying to keep like, no, you gotta go.
the way my agenda printed out, it just is all, it's-
All right.
I'm confusing. You're right. I take it back. The next item is case number 48-2021, 539 Jefferson, which are area variances for the pool.
For the pool, right. That's the one that backs up onto the MTA.
Yeah, to sort of nothing. So my two thoughts are 1.97 feet from 6 to 1.97 feet is a significant amount, but given that the back of the property is not another house, but is MTA property, which is not developed, there will be nobody living there. I don't have a problem with the because that is a significant variance with such a significant variance because it will not have an impact on anyone.
Yeah, I always think of it as like a cliff that like you could build out as far because you're not going to impact anybody on the other side. Basically.
So the only other thing it was very confusing, if you recall, because there was a fence which wasn't on the property line, which was actually, we're not saying anything about any of that. We just have to be careful that all we're saying is based on their property line. That's what it is.
But they were allowing this improvement within that the rear yard. The rest is to the building department to make sure yes.
Whatever.
Well, it's unique. It's a unique property.
Right. Not super unique. There's other properties there, I think. There are a lot of other properties who abut on, right on the railroad. We have a big portion of the village that's on the railroad.
I guess what's unique is that they have sort of their fence goes on to property that is MTA property. That makes it unique.
Yeah. Right. Any other conditions or anything else? Otherwise, we grant the variance. And so basically, if we go through the findings, it would be that, sorry, just looking at my findings. Normally I have them open. It is that there'll be no significant impact on the neighborhood because there's no residential use behind them. There's no other place to put it, given the shape and size of the lot. And as I said already, it is significant, but given that there is no residential or other use behind them except the MTA and its undeveloped property and will not be developed, it is not, there will be no impact on anyone else.
Madam Chair, this is the
Yes.
Assistant Building Inspector, if I can comment. So with that, that area in the back that's not developed currently, we talked about the fence, you've already mentioned it, which is great, thank you. But if they are to develop or use that land, chances are it won't be at that elevation anymore. It will drop down. So somewhere in the writing, we should mention that the pool would have to remain, it can remain as the land is there, but if it gets chewed away and brought down to track level, let's call it, I think it's maybe 15, 20 feet roughly, don't hold me to it. Once that drops down, that pool will no longer be stable if that soil is to be removed. So if they decide, you know what, we can't maintain these tracks anymore, we want to put a high-speed track, let's hope one day they do that. But they'll probably remove all of that soil and expand the width of the area. I know there was talk a while back about changing of bridges and so forth, and all that's on hold currently. But if 20 years now, that pool's life will still be going strong. And if they decide that they want to add another track and widen that area, extend the bridges, it would be affected. So in the variance, there should be some wording. If that is to occur, then the pool should be demolished or removed. And legal can take care of the wording on that. But, once again, it's not their property. And granting the variance, if they do remove that soil, they have the option to do that once they get the permissions to do that. So
I don't know that we need to say, because I mean, to some degree, that's true for any property. If their house was built further back and the MTA reduced their, assuming they could reduce do what you suggested they do, could have an impact on somebody's property. So I think that all we need to say in the variance is, given the existing conditions, that this variance is granted based on the existing conditions of the property and the MTA property behind.
and solely the conditions that are present. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
I
we
don't
could
want to
move-
say it has to be the present conditions. I'm not an expert. We rely on the building department, make sure that when they give a building permit, that there's some conditions in there. I don't really understand what is necessary or not necessary. We're doing the zoning impact. So I'm not sure why we would, if something becomes unsafe, isn't that the building department's? That's not.
We could tie the validity of the variance to the existing conditions, and that the variance itself could go away if those conditions change, which would necessitate then another building department review.
But to what extent would the conditions, would that mean if they put more rocks in or something? What conditions
Well,
are?
it sounds like there's a specific concern about the elevation of the. Dennis, could you
That's
describe that
something
again the way you did?
what we would understand or know, when is that a problem? Is it 2 inches? I'm sure I'm glad that the building department is on it and is aware and making everybody, all homeowners are safe. And that's terrific to have that. I just don't see why that's a part of our zoning application. That seems like, what condition, someone could say, oh, your variance is gone because,
This sounds to me like it's a particular concern that Dennis has, that given the reduced setback, it's going to create the potential for this peril in the future, let's say, if the elevation is adjusted, if I've captured
Dennis,
that correctly.
Dennis, I have a question for you. Where the 6 feet to 1.97 feet is based on the dimensions of actually what they have title to. It doesn't include the piece of land that's in the fenced area that is MTA property. So are you concerned because you thought it included MTA property? So if the MTA ever did anything on their property, the applicant here would still own up to the space that is 1.97 feet beyond the pool.
Understood.
Okay.
So the concern is if a retaining wall would have to be built, right? There's a lot of what ifs. And if the, MTA chooses to remove, let's say 10 feet of that from back in, the way that the pool will be structured, that I'm going to take care of on the building permit end. I'm going to ask for, thicknesses and so forth, heights, rebar and all of that to make sure we don't have any motion. But, I just wanted to make sure that the board is in a safe place in how you make your determination. That's where I am. It's more about getting the proper wording for the board to be in a better position with the
I
variance.
don't think it's an issue then, because the board is going to grant a variance just like it does anything else. And if there's a subsequent change that causes the conditions on which a variance was granted to change, then there's a change, and that doesn't mean they can come back and say, oh, you gave me a variance so I can keep the pool. I don't think there's an issue there.
but what if the MTA takes the land away, but not a significant amount, but we said, but now you're saying, oh, the variance doesn't work because it's relative, like who's going to decide the certain amount of conditions now have changed that they have lost their right to have to this variance? That's what to which degree I don't think it just seems like it's opening it up that some small condition could change and someone could say your variance is not applicable anymore. And usually we give out, that's why it leaves to the building department what is safe, and you build it into the approval of the pool that it's safe, but not the zoning part of it.
I don't
Dennis-
think it's an issue either way, because all variances, all special permits are based on the conditions at the time we grant the approval, and none of that guarantees that future conditions will not be a problem. So I don't see that this is that we actually have to do anything special. Rob, I don't know if you think otherwise, but otherwise, I don't think we need to do anything special in thinking
I was just
about-
going to ask Dennis if a particular concern could be baked into the building permit, where if some structural scenario evolved that would create an issue, that they would then have to take certain steps to address that structural instability or whatever it might be.
So in regards to the CC for the pool, or the certificate of occupancy for the swimming pool, I'm safe. No matter what we do, we're covered. I was just worried on the end of the board to just make sure that there's no issues if they do remove the soil. So, I'm going to say you're allowed to have 6 feet from the property line for your swimming pool. That's where you are. If your patio is beyond that, that goes up to them. The fence is important, as we talked about last time, which is clear. And I'm just going to ask for their engineer or their pool designer to specify exactly what's going in and get steel inspections and so forth, given what the possible conditions could be. And if they choose to do that, then they will. But I would remove myself from that at that point after their engineer makes the determination. Not so much a pool designer, but an engineer stating that, what if this happens? And yeah, as soon as that pool becomes unsafe or that property becomes unsafe, that will be up to the homeowner to rectify that with my predecessor, and that's where we are. So, this is something that's, could be down the line 20 years from now, not even in my lifetime. Metro North doesn't really move very quickly in any direction. So that's it. I was just looking after the board. Thanks.
Thank you. So Rob, if you think there's some language we should put in, please put it in the draft resolution.
Okay.
Otherwise,
I think as Dennis described, I'm okay with the situation, okay with your approach to the resolution.
I'm sorry, could you be clear? What are we deciding to put into the resolution?
I at this point, I don't think anything is necessary beyond
Okay, thank you.
the language. It sounds like it's a building department issue, and if something were to happen in the future, Dennis's predecessor or his predecessor's predecessor can deal with it from an unsafe structure perspective.
all right, hopefully I'm back on the right. So the next one would be Smashburger, but we did that already. And the one after that is case number 6 SP 2013-504, the Parkway. And we have, I think, a draft resolution. Yeah, and I have lots of comments on the draft resolution.
I can share my screen if you'd like, Robin.
Okay, so at this point, I will recuse.
Okay,
Finally.
thank you, Greta.
Should I share my screen, Robin?
Sure. I have to find my comments. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give my comments. If anyone else has comments as we do, you should please stick yours in too. Okay, so the first, second, third, fourth, fifth whereas clause that says, well, you got to fix the whereas, it's missing the E in
Hang on,
whereas.
I'm trying to share it. Bear with me. I'm sorry.
Okay,
There we go.
wait, something happened. Oh, that's the resolution.
So are you on this one now here?
So I have to look at my draft. So I'm going to go from my draft. So the fifth whereas clause, which is the misspelled whereas.
Yeah, you're missing an E in your whereas.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Looking in the
So
substance of it,
whereas
not the name.
the public hearing was opened on this application on June 3rd, allowing members, plural, of the public to speak, not speaking, on the capital A application.
I'm sorry, where are we?
I'll read it again. Whereas the
No,
public hearing,
where are you?
It's that same clause, the same
Okay.
one corrected the whereas.
right, whereas the public hearing was opened on, it should, since we've now defined it as the application, whereas the public hearing was opened on the capital A application on June 3rd, 2021, allowing members, plural, of the public to speak, not speaking, on the application capital A. And okay, now the next whereas the public hearing was closed on June 3rd. And then the next whereas the board considered the application, and then it talks about 2 meetings and the September 23rd, 2021 meeting. Okay, and then the next whereas.
I'm sorry, I'm Robin.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so that was which meeting was it that we just considered whether or not we were going to reopen?
Last meeting, September 23rd.
Are we absolutely certain of that? Wait,
Yes.
there hasn't been another meeting since then. So I did our discussion, and then it came up to us, do you want to rehear? Followed the last time that we had the discussion. So I don't see how that could have happened if we actually discussed it on the 23rd. At which meeting did we just consider whether or not we were going to rehear it?
At the last meeting, the issue of whether or not we should reopen came up, and we decided that the comments were not. No, that couldn't have been, because that would have had to have been at the. It couldn't have been the September 23rd meeting, because was what's her name here at the September 23rd meeting? Was Amber at the September 23rd meeting? Yes, she must have been. So at the September 20th, does anyone know? Ashley, are you there?
Yeah, if it was last month or of 2021, no, she finished on the 14th.
Okay, so then, but we didn't, it couldn't have been I don't think we had a July. I don't know that it wasn't as far back as July 22nd that issue came up. So it must have been at the September 23rd meeting that the question came up, but I don't.
September 23rd was just
2 weeks ago.
I believe it did come up in July. I think that was one of the meetings I covered.
So Rob, you think it was the July meeting?
This was on the agenda. Do we have minutes that we can check this again? So we're not.
No, we have no minutes.
I thought, yeah, I don't think that we just didn't have time to get to it. This was on as a closed application and the resolution for the last meeting, and we ran out of time and we just never got to it in September.
My notes from the last meeting say wait, I'm going to open my notes. Hold on. My notes from the last meeting say discussion. So we had a discussion. So we did discuss it at the last meeting. We discussed something about it at the last meeting. My other set of notes, I have 2 sets of notes, sorry.
I didn't expect this change, so I'm sorry, I don't have review of it.
I guess we can just verify that we either did or didn't. We could just figure it out. And if we didn't discuss, then we'll take out September 23rd. And if we did, it will be in. It's not a significant issue.
And at the meeting at which it was asked of us if we wanted to reopen it, does that actually fit because it says where the board considered well, I guess we considered the application, considered the materials contained, public comment and deliberated. Is that when we should it be separate that we then considered whether or not to reopen it? Is that wrapped up? What we did when we were considering whether or not to reopen, is that?
I don't know that it's relevant. We determined that there were, I mean, do we need to put it in is really the question. We considered whether or not they were significant. I had thought there were more. And then Amber said, no, she only had like 2 comments, in which case we decided it wasn't worth it. So I'm not sure that it's relevant to say we
Wasn't
considered
that
doing
an
something and
in-person-
didn't do it.
I thought that was at our in-person meeting. I kind of remember that. It was the
Yes.
meeting and Amber was there and we talked about whether or not to reopen.
Right.
It was the in-person meeting. And so I think we had closed it, the meeting before, and
Well, we closed it in June. I don't think that's the issue, isn't whether, the question now is only whether or not
what did we do in
all on
July?
September 23rd.
Okay, we definitely need to check the dates on when we reviewed this.
Right, we closed it on June 3rd and then we discussed it after that.
So we need to go back to minutes or the recordings to see what actually happened.
I was able to get the Zoom transcript, which is, a little
Well,
not
I think
always
Robin's point is,
accurate.
I think Robin's point is we might not need to get into the granularity of whether or not the board chose to not take an action in
Right.
reopening.
Yeah, I understand that, but I am just questioning whether this even came up at September 23. It could be
No,
wrong.
agreed. If I'm wrong, then so somebody, we just need to
Right.
confirm.
That's all I'm saying, is that we need to check the recordings. Or
Yeah, either one. We either did or didn't. I have notes that we did, but if we didn't, then we didn't. Okay. Going to the next whereas. The board doesn't find that several complaints were made. Several complaints because the board, they either were or weren't. So whereas several complaints related to noise coming from events on the premises have been made a part of the record, which is bizarre language. So I actually would say were presented to the board rather than have been made a part of the record. We don't usually use that language. Several complaints related to noise coming from events on the premises were presented to the board at the public hearings. I think is much clearer.
We mentioned that this was a problem in the past as well with the last application. No,
I didn't. Do you want to add that?
no, I don't know. Well, and that the existing status did not resolve the prior problems, the similar problems raised. You might want to. It's up to you.
I don't know if anybody else wants to do it. I don't know. It's necessary. We're just talking about the problems about this
Yeah.
one. I don't know that we need to consider what was in the past because we're not
Roll call.
changing.
Well, it just shows that the problem's been there.
Okay.
Whatever you
So
think.
then add something that says something like, whereas issues related to noise had previously been presented, had also been presented to the board in connections with the 2000, with whatever it's called, sorry, I'm looking at the language.
Yeah, with the prior
Connected
application.
with the, what were they called? The 2018 SUP renewal.
Right.
Okay.
But they can, but have not, and they need, and need to be further mitigated at this time.
Well, I don't think we're making any.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, we are. Okay.
Yeah. Also.
So whereas several.
I think that just
complaints-
shows you that the steps we're taking were not just based upon something this time. It's,
No, that's good. You're right. Okay.
Are we good
then-
with those edits as reflected?
Yeah. You want David to repeat what he said?
I'm sorry, did I miss something else?
no, I don't know. I said, and that I think what you said, what Robin said was, and the problems with the noise existed, were addressed previously in the prior application, but further steps are necessary to mitigate the same. Because, but
I think you just put it part of the last whereas issues related to noise had previous renewal and continue to be a problem or something like
and are in
that.
need and are in need of further mitigation because they contain, something like that. You pick the words like that to Robin.
Persistent complaints?
Yeah, I think that the idea is that this has always come up. And it was- particularly, I remember the people next door, they've been before us twice already on this. And it's just like, we're not just picking on these people. This problem needs to be addressed. Now, we've done several ways of doing. Where do you deal with the person who has to be on the premises?
We have to get into that. It's not here yet. It's one of the changes that has to be made.
I would just say recurring complaints rather than persistent.
Yeah, recurring.
Okay. Now, moving along then, there's another whereas, then it says, now therefore be it resolved that after duly reviewing the application and related materials and considering the same, the board hereby grants the application's request for renewal of the, not renewal of the renewal of the special permit to operate the club on the premises, and the next resolved,
Subject to the conditions contained herein. I think that's
correct. It doesn't need the other resolved. Because we've just granted it here. Okay, so the special permit renewal shall be valid for a period of 2 years beginning today, because today's when we're going to vote. That the following conditions, it's not that they shall remain in full force and effect. but the
I thought it
following
was, I'm sorry, Robin, just before we go on. I thought it wasn't is it exactly 2 years? We wanted it to be September. Is that correct? If we,
Oh.
2 years from today. Remember, we had a certain number of months that we were trying to have it come up.
So what do you want to do about?
But maybe that's correct, because it's October. If we file this month, then that would make it September, but I just remember that was our discussion.
So then let's make it September 30th, because usually we do it based on the date we vote. So why don't we just do it at the end of the month, since we didn't vote on the 23rd? You're right. We did talk about September. That's when we wanted it to end. Because I don't remember hold on. The last resolution was granted on July 12th, 2018. So I don't think the dates, if we went from July, we're not going to July, we're going through the whole year. So I would say, how about September 30th and leave it at that, which cuts you through all of September. Does that work, Meg or David?
Does it matter at all that their last special permit had expired? There's a gap there. Does that matter?
No, because they'd applied. We always.
I understand that yes, but does it matter that it means that they applied, but there was really no special permit in force if one expired, and now we're saying that we're not backing it up, that it was good as of the date that the other one expired? I just wondered. It seems like there's a gap now where they had no special permit at all.
I don't think that's an issue that's common. I think the bigger question, though, which you may not have realized you raised, but the question that you actually raised is the last special permit. Hold on. They just asked for renewal. So I think we're renewing it for a period to expire on September 30th. It didn't lapse, nothing lapsed. We have always taken the position that a special permit continues until, if they've applied the 4 months before for a renewal, then we don't treat it any differently. Most people have a gap between when we actually vote. Not most people. It often occurs that we have that gap between when the special permit expires and when we actually vote.
Should we say, rather than saying when its validity commences, should we just say when it expires?
Yes.
And I'm sorry to continue this discussion because we had a long discussion about it. If the idea is that I thought we were thinking about, we wanted them to have 2 summers.
Right.
So we know, but it has to be filed 4 months. So that would be June.
Right.
We knew that they could file, we may not make a decision, but that actually seems the beginning. So I'm thinking that perhaps we push it out a little bit, because the point was that we would have 2 summers and then have comments on how things went for 2 summers. And it just seems if we got it in June, actually, it would be before the summer is really taken off.
So you're suggesting, if I understand, Meg, you're suggesting rather than have it run until, let's say, September 30th, we have it run until October or November.
Yeah, I actually think November, because it needs to be filed 4 months.
Well,
ahead.
why don't we make it filed less? Why don't we do it differently? We can make it filed 3 months in advance. Make it end of October. I don't want to wait till November. I would make
Okay,
it,
let's say October with 3 months prior to October.
that's fine. So when we get to that, let's go. So when we get to that point, Meg, let's talk about it. Okay, so moving on. So this special permit shall be valid, you read this, shall be valid for a period expiring on October 30th, 2021, with the renewal application having to be made by applicant no less than 3 months prior to the expiration date.
So shall we say shall expire as of October 31st, 2023?
Yeah, sorry, I said 21, but yes, I had the
Yeah.
wrong year, yeah.
With the renewal application, I'm sorry, 3 months?
3 months. Okay, so then we were that the following conditions
It
shall
also expires, I think it's expires, or renewal term expires with an S.
Yep.
That the following conditions shall apply. Not shall remain in full force and effect. Okay, so A, hours for organized events held inside the clubhouse shall be, take out the amended to be, and it should just be.
Oh,
shall
I'm
be-
sorry, Robin made a comment on B,
Oh, I'm sorry.
addition shall.
Oh, has he moved on? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my.
He went really
notes.
fast and he can't find which line.
Oh, I'll slow down, Rob, just, okay. So now I'm on B, that the following conditions shall apply. Do you see that? Not shall remain in full force and effect.
Mhm.
And then the small a under B would be hours for organized events held inside the clubhouse shall be, take out the amended to be, it's just shall be no greater than as follows.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
I'm caught up.
Okay, then
So
moving
those
to,
hours, are those the hours that they currently have?
yes, we didn't change them.
Yes.
Okay, then moving on to B, little b, that all organized events shall be conducted in strict compliance with SAPC house rules. And I think that we previously said, but apparently not, as previously provided to the board, because at the last time they were here, Meg had specifically asked for a copy of those rules, and we got a copy of those rules. And those are the rules on which we approve this based on those rules. So we don't want it just to be any rules. So I think it's the rules as provided to the board. So house rules as provided to the board, comma, which are to be enforced by the, SAPC Board of Directors. Okay. Then moving, if you're caught up, Rob?
Yes, if you're okay with what I wrote for B.
Oh, let me look. Sorry. As provided to the board. It was not as part of this renewal application, as part of the 21, the application for the 2018 renewal.
I thought it was when you just said I asked for the rules and they supplied.
The
them.
last time for the 2018 renewal.
Oh,
That's when you asked for them and that's when we got them. We didn't get them this time.
okay.
Those are records of the,
We had, it was in the record.
is there anything
Oh,
else?
okay. So Ashley posted on chat that she has the Zoom transcript and the discussion on the parkway was just to hold discussion for the next meeting. I did remember it was discussed, but so you
Is
don't
that
have
a
to say.
discussion? Is that a discussion that we decided to?
No, we should take that. That's not a discussion.
I can share it, but it's the Zoom transcript, so some of the words are a bit off. But
I don't think it's I don't think it's a discussion, so we should take it out. Even though I put it in, it shouldn't be in. Okay, so moving now to small to little h.
Okay.
It says.
Okay, I'm
the
sorry.
applicant-
Can we go a little bit slower?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, go ahead. Both
I
of you.
was not
I
able
had
to
no
find-
comments, but if you want to
Okay,
go
but
through.
if we could just for a moment go slowly. I couldn't find this resolution before, and so I'm looking at it now.
Okay. Oh,
If you
okay.
could scroll down a little bit farther, Rob, so I could just read a bit. Okay, I don't know where this fits in, but I thought I know that Dave and I had discussed about music outdoors and such, and perhaps that should fit in E, that no organized events of outdoors had a whole separate letter that, you know, and we could go down to where your next
Isn't
comment,
it C?
but I don't know where we should put in the fact that we had talked about the condition that there is no amplified sound is allowed outdoors
It's
and
in C.
is allowed until 10. Am I missing something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, C says that during organized events held inside the clubhouse, there shall be no outdoor live music or amplified sound.
Okay,
and
this
no.
doesn't make sense because it's held inside the clubhouse.
I think we should change it then, Meg, but it doesn't need a different one. It should say that during organized events, there shall be Romanet
It's
1.
not even during organized events.
Yeah, it's during events.
I'm sorry, it was organized events in terms of the club organizing and not sponsored. They had like 2 tiers. Can we just say
Events.
there'll be no outdoor live music?
That's fine.
Yeah, during events, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that like somebody just having a game. They can,
Well, we didn't really discuss whether
but
or
we
not
did
in
talk
the afternoon-
about, acoustic. See, I think we munged this. We were thinking it was the
Oh,
clubhouse.
I see. Now, this is good.
Outside.
Yeah.
I
No,
thought,
this-
I looked at our notes and we thought acoustic music until 10 PM outside and no amplified sound at any time outside. But this is definitely,
No, this doesn't.
I'm sorry, this was definitely intended to be about the clubhouse. I don't know why outdoor. I would leave not delete that during organized events. I would just take out outdoor, that there shall be no I don't know. This is a really munged paragraph here.
I don't think we ever said that they couldn't have amplified music inside the clubhouse.
No, I'm not saying.
No,
that-
this deals with
Shut the
outside.
windows and
Yeah,
doors.
outside. So I'm
Yeah, but
confused
she's
on what
talking about.
But are we
she's-
talking in C, are we talking about inside clubhouse or outside? I think.
outside.
Outside, but it says no live music, even if
Wait,
it's
wait, wait,
not
wait, wait.
amplified.
Let's slow down. C says,
We'll
organized,
fix it.
hold on. Organized events held inside the clubhouse. That's what we're describing here. Nothing to do with outside events. That during organized events held inside the clubhouse,
Oh, that's wrong. You're right. You're right.
shall be no lot, there shall be, so that one, the next one doesn't fit. All windows shall be shut to prevent noise at a certain time or amplified sound, something, but it munged the 2 for sure.
So you
Well,
want
it's
to,
just also, but I'll point out that also, you see, E says no outside organized events are permitted after 9 PM. So the point here was inside organized events can be much later.
Okay,
Well,
I think C is about inside events,
It is,
windows and doors, and amplified sound.
right.
So,
I
And we
think that's
say
right.
inside the house,
You-
the
you need a
hours are somewhere
separate-
else.
yeah, you
The
need a
hours are
separate-
somewhere else. So that during organized events and held that, I'll just say it, but it should be whenever there is live music or amplified sound inside the clubhouse,
right.
those indoors must be shut, I guess, at all times or by 10 PM. What do we want to say?
I think 10 PM. I don't say we're 9 PM because we talk about no outside events are permitted after 9 PM. So it seems to me that
Right.
that's when we should stop, we should make the doors and windows closed.
Okay,
Robin, should I just get rid of Roman numeral 1 here? Is that?
Yeah, I
what's-
think that's right. That during organized events held inside the clubhouse, there shall be, because you don't have outdoor live
I'm
music.
sorry,
always.
that,
Yeah, I think that's
when,
right.
it's not that during, but it's
It's always
when
that during,
there is music or amplified sound during organized events held inside the clubhouse, all windows and doors will be shut to prevent noise emanating at 9 PM.
Do you
At
need
9
to say organized events, or can you say that when there is amplified music inside in the
Yeah,
clubhouse?
when there is in,
Right, the window.
And I think-
Yeah, when there
you
is-
know what? Just take it out. Just take out everything and close and just leave in Romanet 2 that says all windows shall be, when there, oh, no, that's fine. When there is amplified,
Where am I seeing, where am I missing this?
I'm sorry, Rob, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people shouting at you right now, but when there is amplified sound, it's not just music. It could be
There's
microphone.
amplified music or sound. I would leave it in, music, because performers, some music's,
How about amplified sound or music to make sure we understand?
right, that's what Dave said.
yeah, inside the clubhouse.
All windows, and can we say doors? Because I understood
Yes.
that French doors made a big difference. All windows and doors shall be shut.
At all times or after 9
How about
p.m.?
when there is amplified sound or music inside the clubhouse past PM?
After some PM, all the windows and doors shall be.
9 PM, just because we don't have we're not allowed outdoor events after 9. So that's the time we don't want to have noise. We're concerned about
Okay.
noise.
Fine.
Right, that's fine. That's good. I think that's good what you wrote
Now,
down.
what about the outside? We had said, I thought, no amplified.
Well, no, the outside says no outside organized events are permitted after 9 PM at all. So you're not going to have outside noise. That's the problem is from
Right,
events.
but I was suggesting, and I thought Dave at least was in agreement with me.
Yeah.
We had discussed it, that there should be no amplified sound. We asked them if they said, no, we don't have any events. They don't have them now. So we're not stopping something that they had, but we could say no amplification outside because.
I don't want to say that. We didn't really, I would prefer, it wasn't discussed. We let other people, I mean, I'm not sure why we would do that. And I don't know that
I
it's
think we had
appropriate. They're a
discussed
club. They might have things in an afternoon and with sound. And
I don't think that they should have amplified sound outside. They've gotten a lot of complaints about noise. They can have acoustic music, they can have events, they can shout and scream and have fun, but it's the amplification across the
Yeah, I agree with you.
neighbors.
You know that
I
my
don't
next
think-
door
I'm
neighbor.
sorry if I could just finish.
Oh, sorry.
For no amplification, amplified sound outdoors.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's, I don't know, but we don't prohibit that for anyone else. My next door neighbor has amplified music when they have events. And I think that prohibiting amplified sound at all times from outdoors seems to me wasn't really discussed. It was not the issue. And I would actually have a problem with doing that.
And we put some condition that any amplified sound outdoors must be moderate or modified or you know, because there are
We had
different.
complaints here. That was the difference, Robin. We had a lot of complaints here. Historically,
But we had complaints, but if you said to me, I don't think we asked anyone, well, what time was the noise that you were concerned about? What is it? We didn't ask specifically. I don't know that they were in the middle of the afternoon that they were complaining about. I thought they were complaining mostly about nighttime.
I know that when we did Modern on the Rails, that there was no amplified sound outside on their tape at any time. So we have had that. And also I would like to point out that this is not in the M1 district. This is a slightly different situation than the country clubs that we were looking at. This is a community or a corporation here in right in the middle of a residential district, and it has gotten noise complaints. So I would say no amplification out for organized events.
yeah.
Board and Madam Chair, so the same day that there was a discussion, not a discussion about this in person, we talked about perhaps doing a site visit and adding shrubbery to
No,
the.
I think we already considered that and we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's just keep moving.
My comment, I would have to share, I agree with Meg a bit because I asked myself this, what would they do that they need amplification outside in that neighborhood, in a residential area? And what do they need? They want to have some people outside gathering and things, that's fine. But to start with, I don't know. I don't think they ever said they needed it.
Yeah, they never said they had it, so we're not preventing them from doing something that they are already in the habit of doing, curbing it. We're just preventing it from happening in
And what if
an organization that has not monitored itself well, that has gotten complaints, has not responded to those complaints well with to the neighbors, and they are right in the middle, nestled in a residential district. So I think we had a restaurant that had noise complaints and was facing a lot of residences, we did say outside, you can't have any amplification. We did something similar.
Yeah, and I agree, we did that for Modern on the Rails, but there we had direct complaints about, I just don't recall that anybody specifically
They
saying
never said that the
that it was, excuse me, Meg, I don't recall anybody specifically saying that it was a problem during the daytime. And if I'm wrong and if I missed that, that's fine. I just didn't recall that.
But nobody said it was a problem for Modern on the Rails.
Yeah,
either.
they did. They talked about Sundays,
During the
that was
day?
a problem during the day. They specifically talked about problems during the day.
I don't remember that, so.
Well, let me ask you, what would be another fallback? If you didn't say all the time, would it be after 6? Would it be after 7? And during the week? I don't know why you're getting involved with allowing outdoor amplifications. I don't, whatever.
All right, I'm okay. If you want to change it, that's fine. I'm not going to object to it. I just
Yeah.
don't recall it. So I just.
I think that it should be in there that no amplification
Okay,
outside.
I could do standalone language like what's highlighted here.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which, was that something that was picked up from a former resolution? That
Everything, all of these conditions were essentially, except the ones I'm editing, was from the last resolution.
okay, so we actually had, it was buried in there, and it's a little unclear because it came after something about inside the clubhouse, but the fact that there's no outdoor live music or amplified sound was already in the past resolution.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not that there's not going to be outdoor live music. There can be outdoor live music. There just can't be outdoor amplified
Right,
music.
yeah.
or sound.
Amplified sound or music.
Sure.
Period.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, going on. So now we get to H. Unless Meg, you have something else before that?
No, look at my notes for what I.
Okay, the applicant says, the applicant shall identify to the board a person employed by the club who is responsible for the enforcement of this resolution and the conditions,
Yeah.
and such employee shall be present at all member-sponsored events at the club. And maybe it should be at all events at the club. We can make it at all events,
Well,
at all organized events. Because if you recall, the big concern was they were saying nobody was there who was responsible. If it's a member, right? It was all about member-sponsored events. So when the board identifies a person, whoever that person is, that person has to be there at all member-sponsored events.
Should it be a person or persons, just to
Well,
give them some
Well,
flexibility?
they're identifying a person who is responsible for the enforcement of the resolution. So whoever that person is, that's the person who has to be there.
Robin, I tried some other language. Can I just try it with you?
Oh, sure.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm not fussing on
I don't
language.
know. I know. I just kind of did this while you guys were talking. It's much too long though. But it says at all times when member-sponsored events are taking place, an employee or authorized representative of the applicant who is not a sponsor or participant in the event shall be physically on the property and authorized to take action to ensure compliance with the conditions herein and to receive and respond to any complaints from residents of other properties.
I think some of that's fine, David, but since H already says they have to identify a person, I think let's not have them have, let's have one person that's always the person responsible. So take your language and add it to H instead of what I added. I think so. Well, I don't have exactly what you wrote, but if you say, shall identify the board, a person employed by the club who is responsible for the enforcement of this resolution and the conditions you in, and such person shall be present at all member-sponsored events, and all of the things you said about shall be empowered to take action, or whatever else you said, we could add there.
Dave,
The
can you
problem
just
is,
email that to me?
though, that by picking one person, Robin,
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic, because I think what happens if that person's sick, or what happens if they
Then
use
let's have it,
people?
then let's have H say, shall identify to the board a person or persons, one or more persons.
Or is it to the building department? I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think it's more, I don't have a problem with that, but I think it's important that they are responsible.
Yeah, no, I
Person
said we should
there.
add that. We should absolutely add that
And
there.
there can't be a sponsor.
Correct.
They gotta be
Well, that's why it says
physically and authorized.
employee. It says employee, not a member. So if it's an employee,
Can it
then
be
they
an
can't be.
authorized rep or just an employee?
I think if they're an employee and they're authorized, the language you had, something
Right.
about how they're authorized to take action and enforce should be
And
added.
authorized to, and it should be physically on the property and authorized to take action
Yeah,
to ensure.
yeah, I think all of that's good.
Yeah, because otherwise you just have, it's gonna be, I don't know who was there, compliance with the conditions herein, and to receive and respond to complaints.
so
from
David,
residents.
Can you read that part more slowly so
Sure.
that Rob can get it?
Or email it to me.
Sure, can do that too. Hang on.
Yeah, that would be easiest.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not very good at dictation.
I'm not gonna touch that. All right. We get this here. Come on,
Okay.
let's see.
Um,
Come on. This is not my, I'm having one computer I'm using for one purpose and another for another. So that means I'm neither doing well with either one. Just give me a second. All right, give me 1 second, I'll get it to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. Here we are.
we said employed at the club because that's what we said before, but I suppose do we really care if it's an employee or a member, as long as it's not the member who's having the event?
What's your email?
It's rstout, RSTOUT
Right.
at WOH.com.
Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it?
Not yet.
Why not? Something I
It
said.
takes a second.
Instant
Yeah, go
gratification,
outside.
David.
Mine doesn't go in the house. You got to go outside. Didn't get it?
Not
R.
yet.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Ah. There you go. I don't know. It's not married to the language, but I just wanted to, it's not someone there who can watch it, Yeah, I was dancing because they played late, so I got to dance late, right?
No, your language is good, David. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
You do need to say something like that.
No, I think I say it, and they gotta be pheasant, and so someone goes to complain. And says,
How about instead of employed, a person or persons assigned by the club to be responsible?
well, why don't you just, well, that, you can put that an employee or authorized person, or
Yeah, I
authorized
think that's
representative.
fine.
Just leave employee or authorized representative, because otherwise it's gonna be, well, I thought it was Joe. So it's an employee or authorized representative.
Yeah, so shall identify to the board a person or persons or employed by the club or authorized representative.
Right. Robert, you'll play with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it, I guess the one question, Robert, we really want this, that they're gonna give this to the board? Sort of puts us in the operational aspect of this thing. I mean, I guess.
We said this was in the last one. This was in.
Fine. So then why don't you say, and leave it filed with the Board of Appeals? So that it's filed with us, right? But
The point is, you want a contact person the day of the event to reach out to if something happens.
And I don't know
We
that it
don't,
should be
the
the board. I
enforcement-
think it should be the Department of Buildings.
yeah, I agree with that.
It's the building department. We're not going to look at it. We're not going to enforce it.
Yeah. Robin will say, what are they playing? What kind of music?
I want to know if I can dance to it.
There you go. I know where you're at, Robin. No problem.
So that's the first line on H, shall identify to we're changing board to something.
Department of Buildings. Let's make it Department of Buildings.
Well, why don't you do this, if I may suggest? Say at all times, well, like what we talked about, and then say the foregoing person shall be identified, contact shall be provided to the building department. Because otherwise, are you conditioning it upon the one or the other? This is the condition.
No, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
You follow me, Robert, on that?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, no, I'm Robert, you got,
I'm sorry, it shall identify,
no, in other words,
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
start with identify, because
The
then the
board
failure
shall
to identify, the issue
Take
is
out
not
to
to
the board.
identify. Yeah,
Take
the
out to
issue-
the board there.
yeah, the issue is that at all times when member-sponsored events are taking place, da, 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 period. Then you say, the person, the aforesaid person, shall, the name of the contact shall also be provided to the building department prior to the events.
so,
Because otherwise you have a situation where you don't know what the contingency, what's the antecedent. So in other words, there's a rule. The rule is you got to have someone there, period. The next aspect is, okay, you also have to file that name. But the thrust is not filing the name. The thrust is, these are the conditions. Because otherwise we're going to have every condition we ever put in a resolution. The building department's going to have a telephone book.
so the step one is that the applicant should have somebody at each event.
Bingo, right. And step two is, in the same sentence, the paragraph is that the name of the aforesaid individual, the contact shall at all times be on file with the building department.
Madam Chair and Board, if I may,
Yes,
the person
oh,
and
sure.
the contact info should go to the building department and the police department,
okay.
please.
So
What?
please put that in, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's a weekend or something, it's going to be the police department, or nighttime, it's going to be the police department that's enforcing it.
Thank you.
Deb, do you bring up your suitcase? No, but I gotta get a suitcase here. Robin, are we on? I'm sorry. Hello?
Rob is still typing it in.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I just want to know what my suitcase was. I'm packing to get out of here, that's all.
What's
Ah,
the time?
I don't need to sleep anymore.
Hey, it's only 9:30, David.
Does that make sense so far? What I
Um,
typed at the beginning?
During each event, is it each event or is it a member-sponsored event?
Well, we were
Why
concerned
wouldn't
for
we
members.
want- During each event. It should be each
Why
event.
shouldn't it be during each event?
Okay, fine. At each event, the applicant must have or shall have.
Shall have is fine. She'll have an employee.
And I would take out the identity of that. I would leave that, I would make that separate because you're merging all these different thoughts. So I would go after the word representative present on the property, physically on the property, and authorized to take action to ensure. See, that's where I would go. See, it's on the bottom there, isn't it?
Yeah, or acting as an, right.
See, and authorized. I said,
Well, why,
yeah,
do we
see,
want to get involved with who's authorized to take action, or do we just want to know who the police should
Should-
contact?
No, I think.
no. Two different
Okay.
things, Robert. Two different things, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah.
Thing one is, this is the condition. Has nothing to do with the police, has nothing to do with the building department. If they tell nobody, I don't care. If they violate it, that's the problem. Second is, so that we, because of the history, we say, okay, and that aforesaid person, they have their name, contact information has to be with such and such. So that's why I would keep them as separate thoughts. They're not contingent upon, they don't float with, the primary one is you can't do it. The second is how we enforce it. So I
No,
would,
the primary one is you have to do this.
right, exactly. You have to have someone there. You're right. I'm sorry. So I would say at all times when members of sponsored events taking place, an employee of the applicant who is not a sponsor or participant in the event shall be physically on the property and authorized to take action to ensure compliance with the conditions herein and to receive and respond to any complaints from residents or other properties of other.
Yeah, and hold on one second.
Period.
It
And then
has
you
to
put,
say authorized to take action because you don't want somebody who's there. Oh yeah, I'm here, but nobody, I'm just
yeah,
here.
that's
They
what I put
hired
in.
me and told me to come, but nobody told me I was supposed to do anything. They have to
Right,
be
that's-
somebody who
Robert,
knows
that's-
they're responsible.
That's what I emailed you, right? I had that in there, I think.
That's, yes,
That's all right. It's all right.
all right, so this is a blend of our language, David. During each event, the applicant shall have an employee or authorized representative who is not a sponsor of such event.
Well, what about,
Physically-
no, time out. You want to put participant? That's what what about that? Robin,
I'm sorry?
you want to put down after the word not a, I had.
But if it's a
I had
club
four
sponsored
participants.
one, if it's a club, it's like everybody in the club, the
If
other.
it's a club sponsored one, the person is going to be a member of the
Okay,
club.
gotcha. All right, fine. That's fine. All right, it's not a sponsor of such event. Comma. You need a comma there, don't you? Physically on the property and authorized to take action to ensure compliance with the conditions herein and to receive and respond to any complaints from residents of other properties, period. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Write it to the word, that's the period. And then you put down a sentence that says the contact information, the name, the contact information, right, of the aforesaid employee or authorized representative shall be provided and filed with the building
I
department.
don't think filed, just
Filed.
shall be provided to.
To the building and shall be provided in writing. Because otherwise, I called them and I left my message. Been there. Shall be provided in writing to the building department and police department. What, at least how many days before? Each
I don't
event?
think it has to be any days before.
Fine,
Prior.
just period.
I
Okay.
just think it says prior to.
Prior to the event.
I mean, you could do it a minute before, as long as it's.
I
we know
guess. I think that's, you're right. Yeah, we all slip into overreaching. You're right. No, that's right.
And I'm going to end it there.
Yeah,
Boy, is that politically correct to merge building and police as departments? It's accurate. Okay, I'm good with that. Yeah. That a copy of this shall be provided to every member of the club.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
What do you
I don't
want?
have anything
Every-
else.
All right.
Meg, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Meg.
I checked my notes and.
Oh, I thought-
I had my notes.
So we're good?
Punchy
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion to adopt this?
Yeah, we have to take Greta off the, 'cause
Yep.
she's,
Yeah. Well, no, she would just say recused. You would just put recused down there for Greta.
make a
All right.
motion to adopt the resolution.
And I'll set, yeah,
Revisions
Okay.
that we just enumerated.
Meg,
second.
we're
Yes,
voting.
Yes.
Meg, did you say yes? Sorry.
I did say yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay, and I vote yes as well. So this
So the yes
motion,
is
this
what?
resolution as amended is adopted. Okay.
I will clean up the formatting and get it around for signatures.
Okay.
That's right. Does that do it?
The next item on the agenda is 15A 2018 416 Waverly, which isn't a closed application, although it's listed as a closed application, but is a discussion of the FEIS. So Ashley, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, and the applicant is going to present, right? Did I get that right?
Yes, so I'm going to promote the applicant.
Okay,
They are
I'm gonna be-
going,
I'm going to be right back. He can start and I'll just have to listen, but I'm just going to step out for a minute.
okay.
But he
Can I
can,
just ask council a question first?
did you have a question, David?
I have a question to council. Just want to understand the process because I didn't even get mine. There was a problem. I didn't get the FEIS, so which I do want to review. This is an initial presentation regarding the draft. Is that my understanding?
No,
Yes,
this
sir,
is
that's
about
right.
the FEIS,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the draft.
No, but the
DEIS.
draft of I think it's referred to as the draft. of the
Yes,
EIS, right.
right.
We are not, and it's ours to adopt at some point, but my inquiry is, do we have an opportunity after tonight? We hear them to have them come back and then we react to it.
Yes, because you have substantial comments from your.
Right, yeah, I understand. But we
But
don't,
it was only submitted like 2 weeks ago, right? Ashley, when was it submitted?
Yeah.
Yes, so it was submitted just in time for the deadline for this meeting. There
Which
are
was-
hard copies
Right, so
available.
no, I don't think the board members have had a chance to look at it yet. So the applicant is going to present. Ashley has her comments, or Ashley and AKRF have their comments. And we'll get to review the FEIS and we'll set a date for whatever the next step would be.
And do we do better? And I'm just posing this hypothetically, but is it better, Robin, if instead of the applicant speaking first, that we all take a chance to review everything and then have the applicant come in, at which point we kind of do the whole package?
Ashley says that it's customary. Ashley, you explain.
Yeah, maybe I could give a brief introduction of
Please.
what we're doing tonight. So the applicant has, we had the DEIS. You had a public hearing on the DEIS. A number of comments were submitted from both the public as well as the board members. The applicant has gone back and prepared a preliminary final environmental impact statement. As part of that project, they have made some pretty substantial revisions to the plan, which is what they would like to present this evening to the board. And they have drafted responses to all of the comments that were submitted on the draft environmental impact statement. So the preliminary final environmental impact statement is currently on the village's website. And it's also, hard copies are also available for each of the board members at Village Hall. So if you haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, it is there and ready. ACARF has prepared a memorandum on that initial draft, which outlines some comments, which we expect the applicant will update. And then once you've had a chance to review the document, hopefully at the next meeting, the board members could provide their comments on the document so that the applicant can make those additional changes. Because ultimately the FEIS is the lead agency's document, and the voice of the FEIS and the way that comments are responded to need to be in a manner that the majority of the board agrees with.
Right. The board
as
has
I
to adopt it as its FEIS, correct? The board has to adopt it as its
Yes,
FEIS.
yes. Ultimately, the board has to adopt.
I guess my point is that with the comments here, which I looked at, which are interesting, are dated yesterday. So,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, because we only got the document, 2
I'm
weeks
not
ago.
arguing.
And
I'm
it's
just, all I was
documented.
questioning if this is the right time or they change.
No,
Ashley,
it's
you
just-
had said this was the customary process that the applicant would present. So that's why
Yes, this is
thought
the
it was-
customary process, that this is a good opportunity for the applicant to be able to walk through the changes that they've made in response to the comments from this board, so that it gives you some context as you're reading the document. So you could
All right.
see what their thought process was.
Gotcha. All right. Rock and roll.
sorry, as I said, I'll be right back. So you can,
Okay.
You're on mute.
you can start. I have to step away for a minute. You can start. I will listen in to anything I missed,
No problem.
but go ahead.
So is that my cue?
Yes,
It
that's
is your
your
cue. Good
Thank you
evening.
very much. For the record, my name is Tony Joffrey. I'm a member of the law firm McCuddy and Fader, 445 Hamilton Avenue in White Plains, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined this evening. You see Murphy on the screen, as well as by Michael Hudson. Ashley, can you also elevate Kim Martelli to a panelist? And Kim is going to share her screen in a moment, if that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm just going to give a brief overview. Thank you for the opportunity. We haven't been before the board in a while. We've been doing a lot of work since the last time we've appeared before you, and I think that'll be reflected in the presentation that you see this evening. It's not going to be a long presentation, but we certainly wanted to identify for the board that we took to heart the comments that were received during the DEIS public hearing process. The board had a number of comments and concerns, as well as members of the public, and the applicant has returned with a preliminary FEIS, which I think reflects on the comments that we did here. The project has been re-envisioned, and the project has changed significantly from what you've seen previously in the DEIS. Kim is going to walk you through that in a moment, but I just wanted to give you some highlights and thank the board for the comments and the concerns. And I think you'll respond favorably to the changes that have been made, which we believe are more closely aligned with the village's goals, as well as with the proposed maker zone. prior proposal did propose to remove some of the buildings on the property, but leave one of the buildings at the corner. All of the buildings, except for the existing self-storage, are proposed to be raised, which we believe is an improvement. As part of the changes, and you'll see that the proposed addition right now is separated into 5 separate distinct segments. The property and the building that is on the property reflects, we believe, an appropriate transition, and the treatment significantly reduces the mass, which was one of the significant concerns that were raised by the majority of the board members. You'll see in the proposal.
Mr. Jeffrey, could I interrupt you? You said there are 5 segments now?
Mr. Neufeld, when Kim walks you through, you'll
Oh, I see.
understand
I
what
got
that
you.
means.
Fine, good, good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And I'm sorry also to interrupt. At some point, you will put visuals up. Is that?
Yes, I'm just setting the context for you, and Kim is gonna, so
I can turn them on whenever you want.
Yeah, I'm the boring guy that gives you the overview. Kim gets to show you all the really nice, pretty pictures and take all the credit, which is her credit. She did a wonderful job, and you'll see. The board also commented with respect to the height. And as I mentioned, the height will step down. So it'll transition to 3 stories to 2 stories. And importantly, the building that we proposed in the DIS to remain at the corner is proposed to be eliminated and be replaced by a small pocket park with benches and landscaping that really will help the transition of this corner. When Mrs. Martelli's done, knowing that there were some significant impacts as a result of the last storm in the village, I'm going to ask Mr. Stein just to walk you briefly through some of the stormwater proposal improvements. And I want to leave you with that the proposed uses are also changing with respect to this proposal. The Murphy Brothers contracting business, which was going to remain as in the building on the corner, is going to be relocated into the new building. A new woodworking shop reflective of the new maker or the proposed maker zone is also going to be incorporated into the proposal, as well as a third use, which is an incubator professional office space. So with that context, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Martelli to walk you through the revisions.
Before you step down, you were talking very quickly, so I need help on the last 3 things. One is they're going to move, Murphy Brothers is going to move into the building itself.
Yes.
Storage building. And the second one, I didn't get. What was the second one?
A proposed woodworking shop.
That will be in the building, right?
That's correct.
And then you said an incubator. You got to help me with that. What is that?
Professional office space.
Okay. Like where you rent an office or shared offices, et cetera.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. And that'll be, and are the amounts and everything in the document itself?
Yes, and you can see that on page 1-4 of the document.
Okay, thank you. That's right.
And again, as Ms. Lyer indicated to the board, hard copies have been at Village Hall for you to pick up, as well as there is a link on the website that you can go directly to the document as well. But Ms. Martelli?
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. I'm Kim Martelli, owner and principal of KTM Architects. We are located also here in the village of Mamaroneck, just down the street from Village Hall on Fenimore Road. So I'm going to limit the visuals to the ones that are pertinent to the conversation that Mr. Joffrey just kind of summarized. But I think the most helpful to you is I'm going to start with an illustration of the current site plan. And I'll highlight what we were just mentioning, which is the Pantone, the gray building in the far right corner. That's the existing self-storage facility. And the building, which was originally intended to be maintained, we often call it the corner building at the corner of Waverly and Fenimore. You'll see in our new proposed design, it's intended to be removed. We had initially always intended to remove what's called the barn building, some of the smaller structures along the back or south side of the lot, and the central 2-story Murphy Brothers contracting offices. Okay, we can always loop back to this. And just historically as a reference, we've kept in for illustration a reminder of that indication of the larger building with the corner building remaining. And we're going to depart from that and show you our new designs. So the full package you have is a complete site plan. This is just a helpful illustration. I'm going to enlarge it as much as I can on the screen. And the colorings are helpful to indicate light gray being the existing self-storage facility, approximately 40,000 square feet. And the other colors represent the tiers of the new addition. So the darkest one is an only 2-story section. If you'll notice, we pulled the proposed building 27 feet off of Fenimore, as opposed to the prior setback, which was about 7.8, I believe. As you step back in your next tier, we have a 3-story structure, which wraps around the highest portion, which is a 4-story structure consistent with the existing self-storage facility. And as mentioned, where the corner building once was located, there is a very charming pocket park. And we've done a rendering to give you a sense of the scale of that park. It has access off of both Waverly and Fenimore with a lovely little circular walkway and some charming benches for usage.
Can I just ask you, the building itself in terms of the envelope, the external envelope, that's the same size? You're just reducing the height, or were you also reducing the front, the depth and other provisions?
The footprint is smaller. The original footprint brought us to a coverage of 59%. The current application brings us to a footprint of 52% of the total lot area. I'm doing quick math in my head. I believe it's 1,250 square feet less than prior application. And I think probably the most helpful is the inclusion of some valuable renderings. So in one view, you can see a variety of vantage points of the amendment. And what we were describing as the 5 independent areas is we've used this in historical and successful designs to create some differentiation between the scale and massing of the buildings. So this bottom right corner is a good reference to 5, meaning far left is the lowest 2-story structure. The second is a 3-story structure. And the third, fourth, and fifth, as they tie into the existing self-storage building, are all 4 stories with varying elements and varying depths. It helps us create some depth and some character in the architecture of the building.
Is that the 5 segments that they refer to?
That's correct, Mr. Neufeld. And that top view gives you a bit of an overview, a little bit of an aerial of that pocket park, which will have both ground plantings and additional trees proposed. And you can see an overview of our parking design, similar to the current access off of Waverly, 2-way parking within the site, and then 1-way egress onto Fenimore heading into the village. And I pulled together some highlights on what the zoning variance reductions are. But I think the ones we'd like to focus on are, as a reminder, our initial coverage intention was to go from the current 45% coverage to 59. We'd now like to propose 52. That is 2% over the current, over the permitted. I'll correct that. Sorry, Tony, it's my mistake right there. And the maximum FAR, we originally were proposing a 2.43 FAR, 107,000 square feet and change. We've now reduced that to a 1.92, 84,812. Large numbers I'm describing represents approximately 23,000, 22,000 square foot difference. And with respect to overall impervious area, we've been able to propose an overall impervious area reduction of about 2.8, I think I got that right, 2.8%, about 1,250 square feet in overall impervious area reduction. And some of the prior variances remain. We're still seeking the 4th story within a 3-story limit, but we're not looking to exceed height limitations. And as I mentioned, a prior 7.8 foot setback will now be 27 plus feet setback.
I thought that there was a reference earlier this evening where we said the height will step down from 3 to 2 stories.
Yep, so I just zoomed back to that. So you'll see the 2-story begins at Fenimore, 3-story adjacent, 4-story as it approaches the existing. So
Oh,
this
so-
white,
okay,
this
so
white
the-
structure begins at 2.
All right, so that it's, okay, I took that to mean the whole thing. So the heights, it goes from, it starts at 2 and goes to 4.
That's correct. The area closest to Fenimore will be a 2-story structure. And the supplemental occupancies, the woodworking shop, Murphy Brothers offices, and the co-working space, which is a business very familiar to our firm. We've had great success with one in Larchmont now, and we're looking at another one in Scarsdale. Those facilities are located in both the 2-story and the 3-story structure. If it helps, I can go into the floor plans to remind everyone where the different occupancies are.
Well, if you could just, I would appreciate if you could just very quickly, the 2-story will be occupied by what?
Sure. So the 2-story,
I don't care about the detail. I'll look at that, but I just want to,
Okay, no problem. So the 2-story, the ground floor of the 2-story is the woodworking space. The second floor of that 2-story is Murphy Brothers. The third is out. The third floor of the 3-story structure,
okay, what's that? So that's the first, let's do it building by building, okay? So the next one is a 3-story one, right?
the 3-story only has one, other than self-storage, one occupancy at the top level, the 3rd level, and that's the co-working space.
The which one?
Co-working where
Oh, yeah, right,
multiple
okay.
entrepreneurs can join in and work together. Share a printer, share a kitchenette.
Okay,
And then self-storage is on the bottom floors of that. one?
Self-storage is on every floor in limited amounts. So it's a little bit smaller on the 1st floor because we also have the full working space. 2nd floor, it occupies everything but the last bit of it. And I'm scrolling through as I mention them. 3rd floor, it's pulled back because obviously it's a shorter, smaller footprint. And 4th floor, it occupies 100% of that area.
so self-storage is in the 2-story and the 3-story as well?
Self-storage is on every floor of the addition.
Is in every floor as well as every segment?
Not every segment.
Well, that's
So
what,
there's,
okay, you've
there's
got
no-
your 2-story segment. Now, let me ask, because I'm lost. So you've got a 2-story segment. Remember that? You have the ground.
that-
floor,
it has no
woodworking, and the
self-storage.
second floor is- All right, so it has no self-storage. Okay,
Right.
just a sec. So when you say it all has it, so no self-storage, okay?
I
And then
think
what
I was
about-
clear. Every floor has self-storage on it.
Okay, well, we're going building.
Start by telling him which building you're
They're
talking
not
about.
separate buildings, and that's very important to understand about the architecture.
The 3-story building, you have office space is on the 1st floor. What's on that? I'm lost there.
Woodworking is on the 1st floor.
On the woodworking is on the that's on the 2-story, right?
It's on both the 2
Okay.
and the 3.
All right.
Because I want to clarify, I want to make sure the board understands. If you look at the floor plans, these are not separate buildings. These are just differing depths of facade and differing architecture.
So woodworking is on the 1st floor.
Correct.
Okay, what else?
Murphy Brothers is on the 2nd floor.
I got you. Okay.
Co-working's on the 3rd floor.
Of both the 2-story portion and the 3-story portion.
The 2-story portion has Murphy Brothers.
And the 3-story portion is Murphy Brothers on the
Same
2nd
thing,
floor as
yeah,
well?
Yeah.
No.
No. So Murphy Brothers is only on the 2nd floor of the 2-story portion,
Yep,
but the
I just
woodworking,
highlighted it.
but the woodworking shop is on the 1st floor of the 2 and 3-story portions.
Correct.
Correct. It's a larger square footage.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
it's woodworking, you need space to do really good crafty woodworking.
But isn't Murphy Brothers also in the 3-story located on the 2nd floor?
They're on the 2nd story of the 2-story portion.
And what about on the 3-story portion?
The co-working is it's only on the 3rd floor of the 3-story portion.
Who is
Also-
owning?
Self-storage, Dave. Murphy Brothers is only in the 2-story portion, not at all in the 3-story portion.
Not at all in the 3-story. Okay.
Yep, so I'm on that 3rd floor now, and this is the co-working space. I'm on the 3rd floor, right where I can look out at Fenimore Road. And I could do it in model too.
No, what floor is the office spaces on?
third floor.
Okay. The second, and who's on the second there?
Who's on first? Murphy Brothers. Sorry, I had to do it. Murphy Brothers is on second and self-storage behind them, right? So I'll highlight Murphy Brothers now. Also facing Fenimore. They're the nearest position to Fenimore Road.
Yeah.
They got the best views of the traffic.
All right.
We go back to the zoning table for a moment, unless we have.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And Meg, know that I am working those zoning tables furiously. I'm constantly trying to tweak those numbers to all coincide in the right formulas. So we noted some discrepancies. We'll double check because it's a lot of formulas.
Right, and I saw that in some of the comments. I also look at some briefly. I did.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly have any more Excel spreadsheets than I have now.
What I don't see is parking in the zoning compliance
So
schedule.
it's right at the bottom. Is that helpful? Yep, parking is right at the bottom. Here you go. It's on all the zoning
I'm
parts of the
sorry. I see off-street parking.
Off-street parking is parking not beyond your property.
So you didn't change the parking requirements, even though you changed some of the uses? I haven't gone at length. I haven't looked at this. I saw a little bit of discussion that seemed to be very similar to before this design had changed, and arguing why the 25 or 26 spaces was sufficient, even though it called for the 137. I just didn't see any discussion about what is required for the new uses that you have.
Tony, I'll let you field that, if you know where it is.
We'll again, there's office space that's consistent, but we will provide a discussion as a response to the comments. And again, we only received the AKRF comments late last night, as well as the Keller Sessions comments. Obviously, we could not respond within a day to those, and I'm certainly, you obviously haven't had the opportunity to review the PFEIS, and certainly not any comments. So we will be providing those additional comments to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what I will be looking at, obviously, this is a overview that you're giving us right now. Thank you very much. And I know that we'll be reviewing all the comments and things. But you are going to speak to something about the flood mitigation or what you were thinking about in this new design. Are we getting to that portion? Do you want to give an overview of that?
Michael Stein is available, and he's on the call. So Mr. Stein, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Yes, good evening. If you just share your screen, Kim.
I will drop it and you're all you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for the first screen I'm putting up, good evening, Michael Stein, President of Hudson Engineering. So the first screen I'm putting up is for a volumetric analysis of the existing and proposed flood volume within the 100-year floodplain. The different colors represent different elevations within the property. So what we've done is we've analyzed going up incrementally the storage at between each of those elevations. And then we have a cumulative storage volume that we have in the existing conditions as well as we have in the proposed conditions. Overall, in the proposed conditions, we have a slight increase in flood storage volume. So we're meeting what the requirements are. Mr. Kellard from Kellard Sessions had requested that we eliminate the buildings from within the footprint of that analysis, which we have gone through. And from the letter that came through today from the Kellard Sessions office, they were satisfied with the changes we had made to this. I'm going to switch over to our stormwater management plan. So basically, again, one of the couple key factors in looking at the site was first the volumetric analysis to make sure we weren't usurping any flood storage volume, to make sure we provided a comparable volume to what was existing on the site beforehand. Second, there's actually overall, and I think Ms. Martelli mentioned it earlier, is that there's an overall decrease in impervious area of the site. So we went down, I think, about 1,250 square feet. And based upon the reduction of impervious area, this site would qualify as redevelopment as far as New York State DEC regulations, where the main requirement for stormwater mitigation is going to be water quality remediation. So we've provided multiple water quality components in the stormwater design. First, the existing building, even though it's not part of the new, the existing building, the runoff coming from the roof is going into a rain garden right along Waverly Avenue. The runoff from the parking lot is collected between trench drains, drain inlets, and that passes through a mechanical separator, and that ties into the catch basin within the street, and the runoff coming from all the roof leader drains of the building. They're tributary to a tiered level rain garden on this side of the property, where the water is filtered through a filter media, and ultimately, once the filter goes through the filter media, is released to the catch basin within the street.
Can you explain what happened during the storm of earlier this last month?
Ida.
Can you tell how was the site in its current condition affected by Ida?
The site was flooded.
Okay, and if that happened, if we had the same rain flood condition which will not be 100 years, however many years it will be before we have that, how will your plan change what happened in Ida, or does it not? Will the same thing happen? My question may not be correct, but you understand what I'm saying.
No, I do. And as I initially mentioned with the volumetric analysis, we have a minor increase in flood storage volume on the site. It will be imperceptible. It won't make it really, with that small increase, there would be no difference in level in the flood elevations. Theoretically, a billionth of a foot lower, but again, it would be imperceptible.
When you said earlier about the site was flooded, can you just explain what you mean by that? Was it closed? Was it damaged? Were any of the customers' contents damaged? Was it closed for business? Were portions of it emptied? I mean, could you?
I would defer to, I think Mike Murphy's on the line.
Well, wouldn't you have to know that to make your assessment, is my question.
No, because by going through the volumetric analysis, we're going through what volumes of flood storage are currently on site and are proposed to be on site. So whether or not they had flooding and had damage, the volumetric analysis would remain the same.
Well, if it's
the site also
inadequate, then wouldn't it?
And the site also does not have the stormwater improvements that Mr. Stein walked you through and the FAIS and DIS demonstrate.
Right. It also doesn't have half of the improvements on it. Okay, I'm with it. I'll say it. Well, we'll review it. Okay. So does somebody know the extent, or you'll address that later?
We can certainly address it later. We can collect that information and provide it to you in the revised FEIS.
Because I thought the building was closed and parts of the contents was destroyed, et cetera.
We can get that information and provide some.
Well, are you aware of it now, or is this just? I mean, I don't want to play with this thing, but I don't want you to waste your time, and I don't want to waste mine. But I appreciate you can get it, but you're the applicant, and this is our FEIS. So my question is a simple one. My question is a simple one. Does anybody know what occurred there or not? Because right now I'm hearing not.
No, that's certainly not the case, and certainly this is not. And Mr. Neufeld, as you know, this process in the FEIS is that we're to take comments and provide the comments in the FEIS document, which will become your document. So we'll provide the responses in an appropriate way, in a way that addresses the comments, not only from AKRF, Keller Sessions, but from the board members, and certainly to the extent that the board has a public hearing, we'll have to address that as well.
So right now, you're not prepared to explain the nature of the damage that took place. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, We'll provide it.
No, I'm asking you a question. Try me on this one. I'm sorry, and I don't want to belabor this point, and neither do you. But right now, is someone able to tell us in one paragraph what the extent of the damage and that took place and the impact of the flooding in Ida was?
I don't have that information for you this evening, but we can certainly get that information for you.
Okay.
Okay, why don't you proceed with your, where you were or what was next on your,
That summarizes where we wanted to provide the overview and the market changes that were made since the DIS. We believe that it's a market improvement over what was previously presented as part of the DIS and then the prior iteration of the project. It's obviously in response to the comments from the board. We believe we've been very responsive to the comments and concerns.
Right there.
We just received the AKRF memoranda, which we are just going through right now in order to be able to address. And
Sure.
we understand that your next board meeting, the board would have had the opportunity to review the FEIS, which you apparently haven't done, have the opportunity to do so to date. So we look forward to your comments next month. In the interim, we will be working on responding to the comments that were received this evening, as well as in the AKRF memoranda. And as Mr. Stein indicated, the Kellard Sessions memorandum indicates that we've addressed all of their outstanding comments.
Robin, I would just ask this. I mean, we have a big agenda next month. I mean, I think we gotta have some time for this or a separate day.
I don't know yet. I don't think applications aren't due yet. Ashley, do you have any idea what's come in for next month?
I don't. I haven't been forwarded anything from Woodring.
Yeah, so we don't know. I mean, we have
Maybe
no
hold it
applications for
down
this
to 2
month.
So maybe
So who
hold it
knows?
down to 2 or 3, and otherwise, you know, if we're gonna bite the bullet on this thing, just get into it and read it and study it. I mean, I want to be fair to them and, you know, fair to all of us too.
I think if it turns out that we have a lot of applications, which we don't have yet, we may have to consider having a work session to discuss this, like we did when we originally discussed
Yeah.
the draft EIS. But let's wait and see, because if we don't really have many new applications, then I think it's not a problem to do it at the next meeting. So I think we need to wait and see.
Or you can consider just limiting the number you put on for next.
Well, let's wait and see what we get. And then I would rather have a work session because I don't want to delay people who need a special permit or a variance in order to do something. I would rather just have a work session to deal with this if it turns out that we have a lot of applications.
Right. Okay.
Dennis, do you have any idea, you know, whether you've been we're sending people here?
That's what I'm here for. So as of right now, there's currently 2 that I'm aware of.
When's the cutoff date?
Not for a while yet.
Yeah, next, I believe it's the middle of next week, but I don't hold me to it. Ashley would know better.
I think you're right, but I'm not. Yeah, it's like 3 weeks before the meeting.
So I think if we only have 2 applications, I think we can probably hear this at the meeting. We don't have a lot of applications left from, you know, closed applications to discuss, so I think we're probably okay. But I will, after we get we find out how many we have, I can send out we can send out an email, and if board members want to have a special work session, we'll have a work session. If at that point you're concerned about time, we'll just add a work session.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we would just want to coordinate with that with you because we have to put a notice sign on the property. So if there is going to be a special meeting work session, we just want to make sure that we coordinate the appropriate notice.
Yeah, we would let you know.
Of course. And we want to make sure that we're there as well.
One question, Robin, is this more conducive to an in-person meeting? All right, anyway. All right.
Well, we just discussed that the next meeting was going to be a Zoom meeting. Now, are you saying that you want to have this done at an in-person meeting, or are you okay with a Zoom meeting, whether it's the next meeting or, so I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, I think next meeting it won't be a final meeting. It's fine. That's good.
I actually find when we're looking at plans and discussions, it's actually simpler on Zoom sometimes because
Yeah, I was thinking I would
on
add
a
this.
billboard or up on the wall. This is actually easier when you're highlighting something.
Right.
Especially if we're going to be doing any wordsmithing of text, it's a little easier to be able to pull it up on the screen so everyone can follow along.
I'm with you. Gotcha. All right.
And if nothing has changed, Jerry, the village manager, sent out a memo about a week ago, I believe, week and a half ago, that all meetings were made on Zoom until January. Unless something or anybody's done anything within the last couple of days, I believe that holds true to doing all meetings till January. We have FEMA occupying the courtroom to a degree, and that's what it's doing. So I'll double check with the uppers and Jerry tomorrow to see where the village stands, and I'll send that to Ashley.
Oh,
Barbara.
Yeah, please do that, because we already had a discussion about that tonight. And while we said the next meeting was going to be on Zoom, we left the December meeting open. So if in fact we can't have a meeting in person yet, we would like to know that.
That was the last I heard as well, but I wasn't sure if you'd heard something different since then.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
All right, I'll keep you posted.
Okay, so Ashley, they've said what they have to say. Are you now going to explain your comments, or do we just read or what's next?
I think so. Basically, just a brief overview of my comments are: we noticed some inconsistencies that need to be corrected with some of the numbers. We offered some wordsmithing suggestions to put it a little bit more into the village's voice. But I think that at this point, the applicant can take those comments and go back and provide a red line copy of the document for the next submission so we can see how they made those changes. And that'll also give the board some opportunity to review the comments and see what additional comments that they have. And during this next month, if you have any comments or questions, you can email me individually, and I can start a running list that we can provide the applicant as well.
That's similar to what we did with the original DEI.
Okay. Is that the memo we have here of October 6th? Yes.
Yes. So that's the memo I sent out last night. And again, I apologize. It was late, but we only had 2 weeks to read
That's
the large
fine.
document, and I wasn't
Nothing.
expecting anyone to take any action on it tonight. So.
Okay. All right. And I can pick up a copy the next week at the village, right?
Yes. The
I'm
document
just
is
laughing
there.
because,
So.
yeah, I once went to get one a while ago. It was more into COVID, and I'll tell you, it was 3 trips and begging, and it was like a handoff. Anyway, but good. Okay. Super. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so is there anything else, Ashley, we need to do about this?
No, I think we're all set for this evening.
Okay, so I think we covered the agenda. The only other thing then is, I believe council wanted us to take a certain action with respect to 130. I think we're done with this application for now.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. We look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think council wanted us to do something with respect to
Sure.
130 Beach application.
Yeah, and it's not as if council wanted to do something, but the question was presented to us whether or not the certain changes could be made to the resolution that was adopted relative to the 130 Beach Avenue property in September. Certain changes were proposed to the whereas clauses, and we found those changes to be non-substantive and unrelated to the actual operative clauses of the resolution. They were more in the spirit of clarifying the background whereas clauses to reflect the discussion that occurred at the meeting. So it's fine to consider those changes, and if the board would like, they can vote to confirm whether or not they think those changes should be made, given that they are consistent with the discussion at the last meeting, if that's the board's intention. Meg, if you'd like to discuss the substance of some of those changes, I can turn it over to you. I can also put up a red line on my screen if you would like.
I don't think it's necessary. I find the redlining is where we get it's distracting, or we don't read it the same way. It actually can be confusing, but thank you very much for that offer. Yeah, the reason for the changes is to improve the clarity and accuracy of the factual record of the resolution. It has nothing to do with the findings or the reasoning behind the findings of the resolution. It has nothing to do with the outcome of the resolution. The first whereas clause that has changes is the one that describes the zoning attributes of the lot and the buildings of the lot at the time of the violation. So the goal of that one is simply to clarify what were the zoning attributes. Our chair, Robin, had sent in some suggested changes, but they came in very late just that night before the meeting. So most of us, at least I was not able to review them. We were seeing them for the first time during the meeting. We were looking at something that was track changes, which again, I find difficult to read. And I know there was some oral instruction. So it was difficult to understand what the final paragraph would be. When I saw the printed resolution of the paragraph, I have to say, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that we were all aligned that the purpose was to simply clarify what were the zoning attributes at the time of the violations for the lot and for the buildings. But when I read, whereas the property on which the premises is located is within the R5 zoning district, which permits one-family dwellings, but the premises is located on a lot which has a legal non-conforming three-family use consisting of two residential structures, one of which is a two-family and the other is a one-family structure located in two structures consisting of two residential structures, of which the premises are a two-family residential structure having 3 stories, the building, and a third unit located in a separate structure. So I think something got lost in there between the track changes and the oral instructions. So it definitely needed to be tightened up because it seemed kind of just to be circular. I wasn't quite sure what was meant by that paragraph. So I submitted this paragraph, whereas the lot on which the premises is located is within the R5 zoning district, which is zoned as a one-family residence district, but the premises is located on 3 floors in a legal pre-existing non-conforming two-family residence, the building, on a lot that also includes a legal one-family residence. I think that's easier to read. It's clearer. I'm not quite sure where the last paragraph definitely needed some sort of editing because it was sort of repetitive. So simply an attempt to clarify the zoning attributes. It wasn't to add any new information or change any information that we were all working with. I also inserted exactly village zoning code terms. So that's why it says, for instance, it's zoned as a one-family residence district. That's what it says in the code. The second whereas clause is what to list the 2020 resolutions finding on the notice of violation 19658. It came up in a listing of just the actions that had been taken on each of the notices of violations. Again, our chair offered a change to this clause and has made the suggestion or the recommendation that we include in the finding that was actually in the 2020 resolution. And so we were looking at that quote. I didn't object that you would, I thought the recommendation was that we would put the finding from 2020 resolution in this resolution next to that notice of violation. I didn't realize at the time that it wasn't the full finding. It was only an excerpt of that finding. So the excerpt said, as long as the applicant remedies the illegal alterations to eliminate the separate dwelling unit. It didn't include the full finding, which is what I suggest instead should be added. And that full finding is that the resolution, 2020 resolution, disagrees that the building has lost the status of pre-existing non-conforming use as a two-family residence and decides that as long as the applicant remedies the illegal alterations to remove the separate dwelling unit, he retains his non-conforming use status. So all I simply did was to make it more accurate was to have the full excerpt than to choose to just put a portion of the findings that were listed in the 2020 resolution for that notice of violation. So again, none of these changes have any bearings on where we found on this resolution or the reasonings for the findings. These are the factual record that was presented in the resolution. That's what I have to say.
All right, I will say, I don't want, there's no point in, from my perspective, there's no point in getting into a full discussion of all these changes. There were many other changes that were not discussed. They are not consistent. We did discuss the.
I'm sorry, Robin, I have to cut you off. There were these two changes. What other changes are you referring to that were
I'm
not?
sorry, I have your red line. Your red line shows an awful lot of changes.
These are the only two changes, so I don't think you might be misinformed. We could go to
Okay,
council.
the red
These are
line. I will read you all the changes that I have.
I'm sorry, Robin, I don't know what red line you are referring to.
The red line you
I'm sorry,
circulated.
excuse me. I submitted to council these two paragraphs and the fact that there was a typo, which I think you found as well, that we had discussed, the 200 should be 220. I did not request any other changes. There are no other changes. I do not know what red line. You have to refer back to my email. In my email, I isolated the two changes. It is only those two paragraphs which I just recited. So you are accurate to say that there were many changes. There were not.
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm a little confused because I have hold on. I have a red line that you circulated on.
I believe that was the original red line that we were all working from because
No.
I'm sorry, the document that our council sent was a PDF. So in order to work on a Word doc and show what I wanted, it was to only use something that had formerly been a track change. He presented a track change to show all the changes he made during our discussion, plus the PDF. So I think you're looking at the comparative one that Charlie sent in. I might have attempted to put my couple of changes in there, but I definitely, in our email conversation, I definitely then isolated, didn't put it in a document, these two paragraphs, and I think I also added the typo that a 200 should be 220. There were no other changes, Robin, no other changes.
Okay, hold on. I'm looking at the email chain to see if that's right. If it is, then
I'm sorry that you would even say if that's right. You are saying that I am not saying that something is not true, Robin?
there's
Exactly
some
what I
confusion. I
think.
have to see where the confusion is, and that's what I'm saying.
Are you looking at a document called comparative?
Right now, I'm not looking at anything. I'm looking at emails. I'm not looking at any particular document at this moment. Okay, so that's right. I'm just looking at emails. I'm not looking at a specific.
Robin, what you would need to do is look at this document with those two paragraph changes against the PDF that Charlie sent out. I don't see any point to start looking. I could find the email I sent it in. That's no problem. But what we're doing is you're comparing the one with the two changes, which council has now, or we've prepared, that has those two changes next to what was sent to us. And you will find is just those two paragraphs plus the typo.
I'm sorry. Hang on.
So I'm sorry, Rob, were you already offering to show the final document with?
No, I was looking.
Sorry, I just asking Rob as a question. Rob had proposed to put up a red line document. Was that one with all the changes that we were going to discuss before the vote, or was it a Word doc with just the paragraphs that I added in?
What I had someone create today was to take the two PDF documents. One is the final PDF that you created with those two paragraph changes in it, compared to the previous PDF with everything accepted, so that just the two paragraphs that you just discussed now show their edits. Now, because I took two PDFs and compared them, it's a bit sloppy because the formatting doesn't match up precisely. So it could get confusing with that, but I can bring that up to show those two paragraphs that you discussed, which reflect those two sets of changes.
Okay, I have found the email, and you are correct, Meg. There were there were not as many changes as I had.
I think I had a couple of grammar questions, which I just let go.
I'm not worried about the grammar questions. There were fewer changes. I remember what the problem was. I had thought that there were other things said at that hearing that were not included, but it doesn't matter. This is what. So what I really want to say is, I don't want to discuss these. I don't discuss the substance or anything of the changes. The three members who have voted for the resolution have previously indicated that they have approved this document as changed. And since they have all previously agreed to approve this document as changed, it is not worth discussing. So let us just proceed to the vote once Rob clears up what we are voting on. Are we voting on confirming that this is the same as the original resolution, or are we voting to confirm that this is the resolution has been modified, and as modified, this is the resolution? I'm just a little confused on what the actual vote is.
Probably dealt with that in an email.
Yeah, and what that, just to paraphrase that email, the motion, or what you'd be voting on to confirm, is whether or not these changes reflect the comments that were made at the September 23rd meeting accurately.
To just to amend to correct, there are no changes to the findings whatsoever, correct?
Correct.
But I'm not. But I don't necessarily agree that the resolution as it's written, and it doesn't matter because we're going to vote, and I don't want to. There's no point in spending time doing this since you've already all agreed that this is correct. I just want to say that I'm not sure that this is actually all correct. I think that things were left out if you go through and listen to the hearing. So let us just vote on this. Do you need a motion, and do you need someone to second it, or does it not need that since it's just a confirmation? What do you need, Rob?
I think it would be appropriate to have a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay, if someone would do that.
Can you suggest how the motion should read, Rob?
It could read that it's a motion to confirm that the changes proposed to the resolution reflect comments made at the September 23rd meeting, directing that the changes be adopted and that the chair and secretary sign the resolution with the changes implemented.
Someone want to make that resolution?
I'm sorry, but that resolution, it reflects comments because, for instance, that Robin would like to have the findings from the 2020 resolution listed in this resolution, but it doesn't reflect, we didn't comment on the fact that whether that was a portion of it or the full one. So I'm not sure that resolution is accurate. Can we, that comment came afterwards that it was only a portion of the excerpt, and that's the change.
That it's consistent with the conversation at the meeting, because the quotation was in existence at the time.
Right, there was we just expanded and made it the full quotation.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Did you make the motion, Meg?
Greta, you're on mute.
Sorry. Just a question, Rob. Should we also include that we've deemed that these changes are not material?
Yes, that's perfectly appropriate to include.
And that they don't change the findings.
Correct.
Right.
But that they're not material, that they do not change the findings. By definition, they're part of the whereas clauses, not the operative clauses.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, Meg.
Yes.
Greta,
Yep.
David,
Yes.
and I vote no. Okay, we are done.
All right, move to, oh, adjourn.
Yes, please, go right
I
ahead.
move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second. There's only three of us. We have to-
4 of us.
I mean, four of us, yes.
All
So
right,
we were-
Greta, yes, we adjourning.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Everyone, yes, let's adjourn.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
thank you, and a good
Everybody.
week to everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you in a month. Have fun in Delaware Day.